Hello there. Welcome to the IWS podcast. I'm your host, RJ, and I have an amazing set of guests with me today. I have Team Empathy. I have my man, Zaire Kenya Smith, and I have Catherine Young. How are y'all doing today?
We are doing great. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're
It's a
doing
pleasure to have
good.
you guys.
Doing good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
I know we're definitely going to jump into quite a few topics today. I mean, there's a lot to discuss. I always find it very pleasurable when I have multiple people on with me because there's a different energy versus when it's a one-on-one. So I'm glad to have you both here. And of course, I'm definitely going to make sure we touch on the platform you guys have been building and working on because I think that's very important for the audience to learn from. But I want to start by letting us, of course, learn about you two. Now, I don't know who wants to go first, but I'm going to pose the same question. I want to learn and us to learn a bit more about your lived experiences growing up and some of your family dynamics. So, whoever would like to start.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay. Well, my lived experience is I come from a background where I was actually an only child for my dad, where
Hmm.
he was a single father. And I have a brother with my mom where she was a single mother. So they actually shared, it kind of halved my life
Okay.
and raised me separately. I've also have a stepdad. My mom married. Um, I also I co-parent with my ex-husband, so
Okay.
there's that dynamic and lived experience. I have a 5-year-old, so there's that
Okay.
dynamic
Ooh,
and lived
lots of
experience.
roles.
And I am, as you know, pursuing my clinical social work license and
Beautiful.
have worked with majority men and the military population. So there's that lived experience in regular
Oh, yeah.
discussions and relationships. So
Beautiful.
I'm excited to dive into a little bit of that.
Okay. I definitely want to say, Zaire, before you jump in, um, I appreciate the complexities of the way that you lay that out. Like just the way that your immediate family and the way that that dynamic, I'm sure, is
Mhm.
different when you're trying to blend families together. That always can pose challenge. Trying to bring in an additional person who's not of the biological family. And then
Absolutely.
you talk about the I would say the context of romantic relationships. Then you
Uh-huh.
talked about co-parenting. That's a whole another thing that I hope we get to touch a little bit on because I talk about that a lot in my lived experience and a lot of the clients that I have. But I appreciate you for sharing that, Zaire.
Absolutely.
All right. What's the question again?
Just to talk a little bit about your lived experiences growing up in your family, like who raised you, who was in the home, because that shapes a lot of our reality and the way that we tend to behave, as we get older.
Mhm.
Yes. I guess going back, I was raised by a single parent, my mom, and like I said, pretty much humble beginnings, all that good stuff, especially from my end. Like,
Mm.
getting bullied growing up, make fun of, all that good stuff. Wasn't really the most popular one in my family. Not like my like the outside family, not like my
Yeah.
towards my mom and my sister, but outside of that, like cousins and aunties and things like that. Wasn't
Right.
the most popular one or the most likable one. Never knew why. So I was always so I spent majority of my time growing up alone. Just alone and just really
Okay.
just being me and things like that because I even at a young age, looking back, even at the young age, I just refused to just mold into like to fit in. I just
Yeah.
like I always like to be myself. I had that I always had that hunch or a blues clue. I had that at a very young age. Like this is I like being myself. Like I said, it caused a lot of loneliness. I was always to myself and things like that. Same thing with from school, all that good stuff. Never
Right.
fit in for some strange reason. And those paths I accepted, but it was always it shaped a lot within me. It shaped a lot because eventually, when I started digging accepted in life, I realized this one thing: like, okay, cool, being yourself has equity. You can be
Mhm.
yourself and still gain good things in life. And
Hmm.
when I realized that, I just started rinse, wash, and repeat. I keep repeat that cycle throughout my life. Like I can just stay in my lane. This is who I am. This is what I'm comfortable with. I don't have to be this. I don't have to be this. I don't have to be this. I don't have to be nothing that I'm not comfortable with. I can be comfortable. I can be me, my own skin, and still get far in life. So
Right.
that kind of like landed me into the role of where I'm at today. My background is in digital art and design. I had a bachelor's degree in digital art and design. I always was a creator. So even during my alone
Okay.
times back then, I what I occupy my time was creating. I focused on my craft. So I think I was always a workaholic. So you don't have. So just imagine you got no friends, you couldn't go out, all that good stuff. You didn't really, you didn't have that much. So all you knew was work and just that
Right.
was my space, creating. So I always identify myself as a creator. So that's what I usually did in my spare time. That kind of translated to high school, then college, and then that allowed me to work for companies like Nike, Jordan Brand, LeBron, other Fortune 500 companies, all that good
Wow.
stuff. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think for that question, all that good stuff. So yeah, so it's a lot. So I will always say, even I can plug empathy, all that, because not all the way, not the story, but I would say everything that I am today was always built from some type of pain. Because I always
Mm-hmm.
say you can use your pain for two things. You can use your pain to build and destroy, and I always lean on to building side and things like that. Okay, what can I do with this? Because I'm not the only ones feeling like this. I always had a
Right.
hunch I'm not the only one feeling like this. People just not speaking up. So yeah, that's kind of like got me on this path. I know I'm not in mental
Okay.
health, but I am a human being with human experience and things like that that kind of relates to mental health and things like that. So that's what got me on this
Absolutely.
path of empathy, and down this path is just okay. How can we tell people it's okay to be human and it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to have these emotions or online and offline. So that's pretty much my
Absolutely.
story.
No, you're there, man. I'm gonna touch on a few
Yeah, man.
things you said, but I gotta ask you a critical question though
What's up?
to go a little deeper with what you were talking about because this is like a platform thing I talk about. So you said in
Yep.
your home it was primarily you and your mom, and then you spent a lot of time on your own, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
there's
you
me,
have?
my mom, my sister. Me, my mom, my
Oh, you and
sister.
your sister. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Did you
Hmm.
have any positive or constructive men in your life that gave you any type of example of how we should conduct ourselves?
To be honest, no. All my mom really just had was prayer and just praying for us and things like that. So I always use God as a guiding force and things like that.
Mm.
I'm a huge, I'm very spiritual. No
Yeah.
religions, it's very spiritual, and I really lean heavily on God because I always question myself how I got to where I'm at and things like that, and the mannerism I have as a man, not having no father figure in my life, not having mentors in my life.
Yeah.
It was just really just figuring it out, and I just credit God for just giving me, like I said, it's a lot of reading the books. I'm a big fan of the book of Proverbs and things like that. They give a lot of wisdom, give a lot of insight of how to maneuver in life and things
Yeah.
like that. I recommend people to read that book because it is relevant today. And it's just like it's like that. So it's like there's really no mentorship. That's something I always crave for as a young child, as a adolescent, but I never had it. So it was really just
Okay.
faith and just winging it, man. And here I am.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And I appreciate you for sharing that. The reason why I asked you
Yeah.
is because when I was listening to what you were saying, like especially if I talk about from like a clinical perspective, right? I hear
Mm-hmm.
that so often.
Mm,
So often from the community is brothers don't have no male role models to look up to. Their
mm,
fathers weren't around, or they weren't around maybe as often. And even when they were, they don't have the type of relationship that they would want. I always say, because I talk about myself very often in both on this platform and in my own clinical experience, I grew up with my father. My mother was there when I was young, but she passed away when I was very, very young. So it was me, my older sister, and my father. And he was a very traditional black man. He worked really hard. He provided for us. He provided stability and
mm.
preached independence. But when it came to emotional vulnerability, being sensitive, being in tune with one's emotions, being comfortable to express them to other people, it was none of that. And I had somebody there, but I didn't have that kind of role model that I needed. So what I've always tried to understand for us as men is to understand how we develop that challenge of being able and willing to be open and express ourselves, and what are some of the consequences and the side effects when we don't do that, if you
Hmm.
get what I mean.
And I think that's just going back to just accept being you. Like
Hmm.
not like you can't follow the status quo of life. Like it's a lot
Yeah.
of really just I always get myself as a renegade. Color outside
Mm.
the lines. If you
Okay.
color inside the line, do as you told and things like that, of course you're gonna follow the structure of school, education, society, and things like that. I was never, like I said, it was a reason why maybe I wasn't the most likable. People didn't like because I always did. I didn't do the same thing everybody else did. I always did things my
Sure.
way, and I always saw it as that fit. So even as like my mom didn't teach me none of this, like get to my emotions. This is something I just choose. This is who I am. I have
Hmm.
feelings. When I'm hurt, I express I'm hurt. When I'm irritated, I express I'm irritated. It's like there's no bias between my emotions. Like all the emotions
Right.
the same to me. But I know in society it's biases. Okay, we can accept the positives, the
Yeah.
good, the fun, the hard, all that good stuff. But when it comes to this insecurity, depressed, loneliness, all that good stuff, like what is that? Like I'm not about to be associated with that. And that was never
Yeah.
me. To me, it's just like just emotions to me. And it's just like it's just something. I guess I got like I said, just going back to your point, just really just going back to just accepting who you are as a human being, and just
Absolutely.
understanding even before a man, you're a human first. So the hierarchy is human, then man, and like that's then genders, whatever gender you are, all that good stuff. So we need to
Right.
understand we're human. Is what we do. So so I think it come to accepting that first. Really come to accepting.
No, absolutely. The acceptance to me is the critical part, and I think it's difficult for a lot of us, because of the cultures and the backgrounds that we come from. Getting to acceptance can be very difficult, just because it's so stigmatized for many of us to even, like, for example, even engage in therapy or even have these type of discussions with your friends or with your close loved ones, because for a lot of people, we're sort of stuck on this traditional mindset of what a man is supposed to be and how he's supposed to behave and how he's supposed to portray himself. So when you don't have those examples on top of that, that can like further compound the issue, right? So it can make it a little challenging, but I'm hoping that with these type of discussions, we can help push that narrative forward.
It's a lot of
Over time.
unlearning we have to do. It's a lot of
Yeah.
unlearning we have to do. As like it's a lot. It's like it's almost like the old saying. The only way to fix it, probably got to recognize the errors. One, you got to realize this is a problem out there.
Hmm.
You have to realize if you don't see no problem in it, there's nothing to fix. So you have to realize
Absolutely.
something is off here. If you want you like I said, go back. It's like I said, it really acceptance and very this self awareness of who you are and just how
Yeah.
you're operating and just looking at the results. Cause usually when it comes to these emotions, it affects
Hmm.
everything. It affects your job. It affects relationship. It affects all of this because it's showing how you coming up, how you handling yourself under stress, how you handling yourself
Right.
under hurt. That all come back down to emotions. How are you dealing with your emotions? If you don't have a grip on your emotions, either you going off on people because you can't contain yourself, or you just
Yes.
not, or you just holding everything in, and then you have the breaking point, and you really just go off all that good stuff.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
just like really like how to deal with these emotions, man. So it's a lot. There's a lot of variance of it. So it's just a
Yeah.
really just come down
It
to self
is.
awareness, is recognizing it's a problem.
No, absolutely. And
I
Catherine, I
call
wanted
it
to come.
toxic. I call. Oh my bad. I'm sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, no, no. You good. Go ahead. Finish your point. Finish your
I
point.
said. I was. I call it toxic masculinity. That's what I think that kind of
Yeah, no,
develop.
a fair amount of it does come from there.
Yeah.
Because we're perpetuating a lot of the same cycles that we've seen. But
Yeah.
Catherine, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you were spending a lot of time with like military populations and like working with men. I wanted to
Yeah.
understand and learn a little bit about like why did you choose that group, or what kind of drew you to working with them?
RJ, to be honest, the experience found me. I wasn't looking for it.
Mm,
And I'm very grateful for it. So around during the Obama administration, there was a big push for Black people to go into federal employment.
okay, right.
And I had the unique experience right after I graduated college to get a job overseas in Japan on a military base.
Wow.
And so when I took that, there I was, jumping into a culture that I knew nothing about. Like as a Texan, everyone's like, "Oh, there's somehow the veteran population in your lineage," but for me, there was none. So I
Wow.
had to quickly learn the military culture, the language alone, and their experience, and just the way they're trained and the way they think and the
Hmm.
age that they're recruited it was interesting for me. What I found was that as an outsider, so to speak, someone with no background in military culture and very little understanding, I was very well received
Beautiful.
because I kind of came in destigmatizing everything, really seeing them, I like to call it, behind the uniform.
Yeah.
And so they were like, "Oh, there's someone that I don't have to approach a certain way or speak a certain way to,
Right.
or think how's this going to affect my career. If I tell them this, everyone's going to know and it's going to go into my record." So what I found was when I came into this space blindly, it could have went really bad, but it actually worked in my favor. because they were like, oh, I can really talk to this person because they see me for who I am.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go nowhere because they're basically ignorant, you know, to this culture, so to speak. So, and what I found was I learned a lot about masculinity and a lot about hiding your emotions and a lot about having to present a certain way and
Hmm.
mask your true feelings and be uniform and subscribe to the culture that someone tells you you have to subscribe to and behave the way a
Yeah.
person tells you you have to behave a certain way and to take the job and do the work and fit the narrative that someone tells you you have to fit. So I I also, you know, a lot of them were between the ages of 18 and 24. So there's a lot of identity formation happening. And
Oh yeah.
that's a very young age to come in and say, here's your identity. Take this and follow this. I'm stripping you away from your family and telling you how to dress, where to work, how to work, when to show up, how to do it, how to talk, how to address people, and then there's that ranking structure of you
Hmm.
treat this person this way because of this shirt they wear, you treat this person this way because of this shirt they wear. And so I was in there as a Trojan horse, just breaking everything, just saying I was approaching them like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what's your goal in life? And they were like, oh, well, I already do what I do. This is my job in the military. I was like, no, who are you? You know, and just asking that simple question, who are you? It had a lot of impact with that culture. It had a
Oh yeah.
lot of impact with that population. It made them think, you know what, I am someone who can dream and who can decide who I want to be. So that experience taught me a lot. And what's really brought me to empathy, because military culture and social media culture almost work in and of the same. You know, we're telling each other that this is only acceptable if you do it this way. And a
Mm.
lot of people have a lot of stories to tell that they're kind of just bottling inside, just waiting on someone to ask. Just the simple act of asking, you know,
Hmm.
has true impact. So yeah, I love that question. And like I said at the beginning, I didn't choose this population. It chose me, and it was an amazing 6 year experience. I go
That's
back and
awesome. No, that's awesome. Kudos to you for doing that type of work. It was funny. I didn't know that you had that experience. I don't think I told you this earlier, but I actually was in the military.
what?
Um, yeah, years ago. And so
Awesome.
I know a little bit about, like, the culture of what you're describing, like being very prescriptive, right? Especially when you're young,
Right,
right? Like you said the most, like, important thing I heard you say, and that was identity formation,
right,
right? 18, like you have no idea who you are, not
right.
really. This is you guys may disagree, but this is just my opinion because I'm 35. I think that you got to be kind of through your 20s almost when you start to really figure out who you are. And I
Yeah.
think when you're in your 30s, you start to figure out, like, how you want to create that impact in your life and live more purposefully, because you
Yes.
understand, like, what drives you, what your values are, what you're motivated by, and you're ready
Yeah.
to put things into action. Which is no disrespect to the 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds. You just
Yep.
you're going through your journey, right? You're
No,
going through your process.
science. No, science is backing. Your frontal lobe is still developing. Like it's
Oh yeah, of
still
course. No,
developing
for
things.
sure.
Like that's what I'm
Especially
saying. Yo,
for
like
us, right?
science is backing you right now.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So you're not saying nothing crazy. Science is backing you. Like you're still
Yeah.
like I think it stopped developing around 25, Catherine. Right? The age of
Yeah, yeah.
25.
It's especially for men, especially
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
we take a little bit longer.
yeah.
We take a little bit longer. Not that that's a bad thing. We just it's our biology. It's okay. We're not doing anything wrong. But I think it's important,
Mhm.
right? Like, you're talking about that, and again, just the fact that you even did that type of work, that's beautiful. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
again, talking about creating that space, and I'm going to, hopefully this will bring you back into Catherine. But I'm going to segue to you, Zaire, because I want to talk about your platform now, because we're talking about creating that space to be authentic, to be honest. And I'll be honest. I'm not very social media savvy in terms of, I don't, how would I say it? I don't feel that I derive my value from social media because I predate social media. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I know who I am outside of that ecosystem of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Mhm.
whatever other one you want to
Mhm.
incorporate in there. Because I grew up before it. Back
Mm-hmm.
when you went to the library, when you read books before the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
Um, But I understand for the younger generation, I have a lot of young male clients, some younger female as well. And I know that it's different for them because it's
Yeah.
more integrated into their life. They're doing a lot more comparisons than I probably was.
Hmm.
And so I want to ask you, Zaire, what caused you or motivated you to want to create the platform Empathy?
Um, before I was gonna give credit to Captain her story. I'll be trying
Oh,
to tell the story
go
more.
ahead.
Like
Feel free.
her story is so dense and things like that. Like I said, the Japan story in the military. I wish you just dive into that more. I always try to tell her dive into that more because that's so. It's such a unique experience of what you was
Oh,
able to do,
absolutely.
what you was able to accomplish, and all that good stuff. So I always try to champion her to just share that more because I think it's a phenomenal
Absolutely.
story, and like always, as I always hear, it's always well received.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so I just had to just plug that. But yeah, for me, like I said, I think it was 7 years ago. Graduated Full Sail University with a bachelor's degree in digital art and design. And during my time in college, my 4 years there, I experienced early success, like very, very, very early success around 20, like right from 20 to 21 to 22, 23, 24 to, yeah, 24, 25. Yes. So I experienced a good amount of early success.
Yeah.
And to the point, like anything, whatever job, whatever field that you in, when you reach the what you believe the top of your field, you ask yourself, do I want to do this for another 5 to 10 years or I want to do something different? And
Right.
for me, I wanted to do something different because the money success wasn't really feeding me. I don't like for me, just like you, RJ, I'm very purpose driven because I believe the two most important moments in your life is when you're born and when you realize why you're born. And I was searching for why I'm here because I
Right.
didn't believe I couldn't just accept just waking up, working for money and things like that. Just that cycle, like it got to be more to life than just that. So when my
Right.
peers went left to go into the field of digital work, I decided to go right to find more purpose in my work. And
Mm,
during that 1 year journey from 2014 to 2015, I hit a wall. And that wall was my family didn't understand. I'm jumping off the tradition. We are all black. We are black families.
mm-hmm.
You know what you need to do. Go to college, get that degree, and get a job. They didn't understand what I was
Stability.
talking about purpose. It was like, what you talking about? What's this
Yes.
purpose you speaking in? What's this purpose you speaking of? Like, you better like do something with this, especially when you're on a high trajectory. I was on a high trajectory. And most people won't do what I did. I had to, everything was good set. Like I have a
Yeah.
valuable skill set. And I just walked away from it just because I don't know. I just never been money motivated driven. I always been like if I like it, I'll do it for free and things. That's how I always was, and maybe that's how my
Yeah.
mind was. And like I said, maybe because I experienced, I got just like any black people, we get our delayed gratification, all that good stuff. We get our gratification, but sometimes we get delayed. So I
Sure.
experienced. For the most part, I did a lot of free stuff up to that point when I started getting my just due and things like that. When I started getting my just due, it just didn't really do nothing because I was used to doing it for free. So that's why when I got the monetary gain, it didn't really change nothing within me. It was like it didn't push me even more. Like,
Right.
okay, cool. That's why I always try to tell people. I always try to tell people people always say money is the key to happiness and things like that. I'm not gonna say it's not. I'm just saying you get there yourself. So you see, figure out yourself. You get to the top, and then you'll see it's not there. For me, it's not, and things like that. Once you have it for yourself, I can't really tell people, oh, it's not. Nope, you go up there yourself. You'll see for yourself. You'll see.
Right.
So it's like once you get it, once you got all what you because success is relevant to everybody else. Whatever that is, you get you will see it's not the key to happiness. You really got to have purpose to really just to find something more beyond yourself, beyond just money. It got to be more than just superficial stuff. So
Agreed.
after I told my family that, they looked at me crazy. That caused a bit of depression, anxiety, self doubt, a lot of stuff, even to the point of suicidal thoughts, all that good stuff, just
Mm,
because it was such a low point in my life because I didn't make bad decisions. I didn't make bad decisions. Even though I think I was sleeping at my sister's house at the time in Florida, just
mm,
because after I graduated, cause I was still trying to figure things out, and she saw me succeed. She saw my rise, my 4 year journey, and she turned her back on me when I decided to switch. And
do
then
something
decided to
else.
do something else different. And that's the hardest thing because I think that hurts more than failure. what hurts more than failure is when you realize the people who thought with you, and then when the ship is sinking, you realize you're going down board that boy by yourself. Now everybody got their lifeboats, everybody's just moving on. That's the most hurtful. Screw the failure. Anybody can deal with failure. Who cares? Who cares about the delay? They can deal with that. What I can't deal with, the people you thought was here for you, just leaving. That hurts. That's another level of hurt. You start re-examining all your whole circle, all the people around. Like, are you really here for me? And things like that. And that caused a bit of paranoia in my future. Like things like that. I still deal with it. Hey, are you really here? And things like that. All that good stuff. Because I saw like, okay, when everything's good, people are here. You have a lot of, like Proverbs said, the rich man have many friends. The poor man have no friends. So when everything go good, you have many friends. But when things go bad, you really gonna start who was really there for you. So
correct.
So when I had that moment, I was feeling how I felt. I went to express that online, and I stopped myself because the unwritten rules on social media says if it's not perfect, it's not wonderful, it's not entertainment, don't post it. And I didn't. And I asked myself, like, why? Like, why did I do? I'm so like I said, I have conversations with myself. I highly recommend everybody have healthy conversations with yourself. Sometimes that'll be the best conversations you can have. Is with yourself and things like that.
That's called reflection, sir.
There you go.
We should all be doing that.
Yes, I'm telling you though, they are, especially a good one. Man, oh man, they're very, very life changing. Yes. So I started asking myself, like, why is that? Because life is a series of peaks and valleys. Like we're going to do this for the rest of our lives till we die. These kinds of go ups and down. So why are we only praising? Why is this only showing highlight reels of all the made shots on social media and not the missed shots? And I knew at the time I didn't have the data, it wasn't sustainable. I just knew from a human perspective. Because I'm like, no, you can't hold all of this in. It's just like trash. If you leave trash in your house, yes, the first day's not going to stink. The second day may not stink. The third day may not stink. But the fourth and fifth day is going to start stinking, all that good stuff, because you haven't got rid of it. You got to put it somewhere. You have to take it out. So once again, we have to be able to express ourselves and things like that. And sometimes it don't fix nothing, but it's a weight off our shoulder because we said it to someone and somebody, and they were able to receive it. So I just knew, I knew that the model of current social media wasn't sustainable. Just like McDonald's, they sell a crappy burger, but if you eat that crappy burger for 10 years, you're going to have health problems. So same thing, we can look at social media today, even the data support my proof that even Gen Zers having adverse effects towards social media, causing depression, anxiety, and a feeling of isolation. And we're the most connected generation in history, in history, but we're the most disconnected emotionally. And that's when really empathy was born, because I realized, okay, cool, we need to change this problem. And for me personally, I told myself I wasn't going to have kids till I changed this, because the bullying I had back then, like I said, my story, I already know it's different now because the bully don't stop. The bully usually used to stop at school. Now the bully from schooling, social media, it don't stop. And that can cause suicide. It just doesn't stop. There's not no buffer at all. And I can't even imagine what that is. I knew how it would make it. I knew it made me, like, drove me to this very sad place and things like that. So it's just seeing from that point of view, like, dude, this has to change because this is not sustainable. And then it's just like how we not valuing each other as human beings and seeing each other as human beings. And we losing too much of that empathy. I think that's the point. We losing empathy in our culture. That's why the app called empathy, because that's what it is. I try to bring back empathy. I'm not trying to create kumbaya on empathy, but let's bring back balance, because we're going down a dark rabbit hole where there's no empathy. And it's just like we all act like we all got things together and we don't. And I just wanted to just train. I wanted to bridge the gap and just show people like the highs and the lows can coexist. They can coexist and they can be treated equally. You know why? Because all a part of the human experience. The rich man and the poor man both feel happy and sad. Like, we can't escape for this. That's our middle ground. Whether you black, red, white, whatever. That's our middle grounds, our emotion. That's where we all can feel the same thing. So that's what I wanted. That was my life purpose, my mission to create, because it was just something deep within me. I know the power in being yourself. All the people we look up to, all the greatest people in the world we look up to, inspired by, there was no version of themselves. There was no version of anybody else. There was themselves. So I knew
Absolutely.
there was equity in being yourself and sharing your story and having your own story to share. So that's like the long version of why I created Empathy
No, but
and why I
that's
got on the
important.
path how I got have. And this was like I said, 7 years ago. Yes, it's a huge topic right now. Mental health is a huge topic right now. Like I said, this I always say the 7 years. I know I've been knew this. I've been saw this. I knew this wasn't sustainable at all. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Shout out to you for having not only I would say the level of awareness. I think
Mhm.
that's necessary to even want to go down that journey, but then the courage to, like you said, sort of forsake everything that I'm on this path. I have great stability. I have a great trajectory. My family likes it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna go left. I'm gonna go do this because I think this is better for me. I think this is gonna create
Mhm.
greater impact, and I want to live a purposeful life. I think that that takes a lot of courage to be able to do that.
RJ,
And
you
then,
got to live yourself. You have
of
to live. You
course,
waking up and living
of
with yourself.
course,
You got to live these decisions. At the end of the day,
no,
you have
absolutely,
to live for these decisions. So that's why it's like, yes, it's curved. At the same time, people have to understand when you make decisions because other people. Remember, you have to live with those decisions, whether they good or bad.
absolutely.
So
Hey, listen,
I need to look. I need to look
I
at
agree
look
with
at
you.
myself in the mirror. Yeah,
No, I
I
know.
was.
I
I was
agree with you, man. That's why, like, I'm glad that, like you mentioned earlier, I'm glad that there is more of a thoughtfulness and consideration around mental health. I'm hoping
Mhm.
that, Catherine, that you're going to be full with
yeah.
clients when you're ready to take them all on, because so many people need to gain that level of insight, right? They got
Yeah,
to gain that
yeah,
level of awareness to say, why am I making the decisions and the choices that I'm making?
absolutely.
And that's why I talk a lot about our upbringing and our culture and our perspective, because
yeah,
in my experience, until you have that time where you sit down and maybe somebody challenges your thinking, which is usually what therapy can help you to do, not that you're wrong, but just to
yeah.
challenge you to think outside of the box, right? Like you were
Absolutely.
talking about
Mhm.
externalizing your feelings,
Mhm.
is I only see the world in one way. And my bias, everybody has a very strong internal and implicit bias.
I agree.
So we think that everything is right from our perspective. And
I
and
agree.
when you talked about empathy, like, I wish I could have give you the biggest applause, because we don't listen. We look at we all make these very quick snap judgments on each other based on um, headline, clip, thumbnail, picture, and we're like, oh, that's you. I got you pegged already. That's your situation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, again, I predate this stuff. So I
Yeah.
don't, I always have had to learn to read deeper. I don't just read on a headline. I'm like, oh no. So what's the article say? Or
Mhm.
everybody jumps on everybody because they saw this clip. They saw a minute clip of a video. Well, did you watch the whole thing? What were
Exactly.
they really talking about? What was the context? Right.
Yes.
I think about that, and that's, to your point. I agree. To me, I would put that and qualify that under empathy, because we're not giving each other the space to even dive a little deeper to really understand the totality of this lived experience of who this person is, why you are the
Yeah.
way that you are, even if I disagree with you, even if I
Right.
don't share your viewpoint.
Right.
Oh, can I not still try to learn from you and understand why you are the way that you are? Could that
And
not benefit us, right?
I think that's the problem. Just accepting each other point of views without malice. No
Yeah.
malice. See, because it's like we have malice in there. It's like, no, if a person can think this way, let a person think this way. Cool. If it's not harming nobody, things like that, there shouldn't be no
Hmm.
malice, things like that. No, what you're experiencing there, a human being with their own perspective. Everybody have that, all that good stuff.
Correct.
And like as Catherine even said before, like identity formation shaping on social media is happening right now. And if all
Yeah.
we is uplifting is positivity, 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 they're not gonna know what to do with these negative emotions or these not negative emotions, these
Mm,
your other sides of the emotion. It's like what to do with these. So let me just put a mask on because I don't know what to do with these. Let me just, even though I'm sad, I'm gonna say I'm happy because this is what acceptable. This is what the tribe said. Because it's like let's be real. Human beings are tribal. Nobody's not trying to ruin the tribal vibes. If it's if it's positive vibes, wonderful stuff, fun. They're
mhm.
not trying to ruin it with their sadness. They're gonna put their mask on and say, okay, I'm happy too, even when they're not happy, because they're not trying to get kicked out the tribe. So it's just
Right.
like I get why they do it. It's called peer pressure. Social pressure is real. Go back to my point. Why don't I need to change this because I don't want my kids to deal with these social pressures. These are
Mm.
let's
Yeah.
call it what it is, social pressures. It's social pressures. This is why they just like that's why I always look at the reason why I think empathy is so willing to work. It's a domino effect. Once we it's no different than Airbnb and Uber, those some crazy wild ideals. I would have pitched that to you. Hey, jump in a stranger car and they're gonna take you somewhere. or live in a stranger
Right.
house, all that good stuff. That's wow. But guess what got normalized? So, but
Yeah.
Right.
once we
Over time.
normalize
Correct.
it got normalized over time. But once we normalize, okay, it's okay to have these emotions. We can focus on the real issues of life. Because I
There we
really think
go.
it was just balance things out. Because we realize, oh snap, so crazy. RJ or in this middle-aged white man got share same stories. I have similar stories and things like that. Like we connect. We just don't. We're not sharing everything. It's all like I said. It's like basketball. We just sharing the made shots, but we can share those missed shots. Jesus, watch
Mm-hmm.
all the alignments we have. We realize, oh, snap, you've been through that too. Oh, you've been through that too. Oh, you overcame that. Oh, see, this is what I did to overcame it. Like we can start passing information across, real information, because we
Yeah.
all experience this thing called life, and we have our battles we won. We have the battles I go through. We have the battles we conquer, and those same
Yeah.
battles we conquer can help somebody if we speak up. But like I said,
That's the
and we
key
see
right
this
there.
on
If we speak
and we
up.
see it, and we see this on social media all the time. Like they do it when I'm saying it just spread out. It's like people opening up, people expressing themselves, and then you can read the comments. Oh my gosh, I've been through that. Oh my gosh, I went through that same experience. It's on that. Sometimes you can read, sometimes you can look at TED Talk videos. It happens. Like it's
Oh
happening.
yeah.
Whether it is people talk about from cancer, army vets, and things, it's happening all in the internet. It's just everywhere. With empathy, okay, let's keep it all in one place and things like that. So all this
Absolutely.
openness, they understand. Let's put this under one roof and let's see what that looks like. We still don't know what a balanced social media looks like, where the highs and lows can both coexist. Not
I
just the
love that.
screams, not just the screams, just like okay, cool, straight mental health, or just not the screams, okay, straight funness. Okay, what a balance look like where both just exist, both can coexist. What does that look like? We don't know what it is because not haven't been created, or it's not as or haven't been established on a mainstream level. We don't even know what that looks like yet. I'm all like, okay, cool, that's worth failing. That's worth losing money. That's worth busting my ass because if it works, things change, culture
Yeah.
change, the whole paradigm change. So that's what drives me. That's what gives me the passion. That's what gives me the work. That what if it works? It changed
No,
stuff.
no,
It
no.
changed stuff. It
I
changed stuff for
support
the
that.
better.
No, you're
And
you're
guess what?
right.
It's sometimes it's not the fix. It's like, okay, cool, this and that. No, sometimes us opening up, expressing ourselves, that can be the temporary fix. Cause why we got to the middle ground of accepting this is okay. And after we accept this is
Mm-hmm.
okay, then we can bring out the solutions, the therapy, the holistic solutions, whatever it may be. But let's get to this ground of acceptance. We all feel this way first. Once we get to that ground, because I always tell Catherine, Catherine always say, once we hit once we normalize the emotions, then the solutions can come. Then the solutions after, because the solutions right here, they exist already. The tools is
Right.
here. The tools is here, but we're not using the tools because the stigma on this stuff is bad. It's really very bad. It need to be rebranded. It needs to show. That's why when you go Empathy website, we don't demonize the press or anger, all that good stuff. No, we try to recreate it. We try to recreate the look. Like, yes, even the color theory. Because yes, they say, oh, no, this color me this. No, we got to create our own colors and things like that. So everything got to get
Mm-hmm.
rebranded so people can accept it. It's a branding issue right now. It's a
No,
branding issue.
absolutely.
And that's why I see. I'm sorry for the long soliloquy or cayenne rant, but
No, no,
yes, so
no,
that's
no.
all it
Listen, no,
is.
we want to hear the passion, man. You
Yeah.
created this. I get it. Listen, if you
Oh,
trust me, if you hit certain buzzwords in this conversation, I'm gonna go off because I get on my
yeah,
soapbox moments as well because I
Yeah.
understand
yeah,
a lot of what you're talking about, like the level of
yeah,
expression and the vulnerability that we need to create.
Hmm.
yeah,
It's paramount. And even when I look on social media, this is why I was trying to make the point about why I see myself outside of it. It's because I feel like
yeah.
I more critically observe and evaluate social media because I don't get my validation and value from it. Right. I put this stuff
Yep,
out there because I know that it's of value. I don't care if
Yeah.
yep,
anybody else says it. I know people will see
Yeah.
that because I do that type of work. But
yeah.
I'm 35. I'm not 15. I'm not 17.
Indeed,
I'm not
you're
20.
right.
Right. So I didn't grow up in that. So I understand there's much more attachment to, well,
Yeah,
if I don't get these amount of likes, then it makes me feel bad. Or if people
Mm.
start giving me bad comments, then it makes me feel bad.
it's bad.
Because
It's
we're
bad
talking
out
about
here, RJ.
withdrawn, right? It
It's
could sink
it's
you.
bad.
And
It's
I know
bad, man.
because I've had these stories. I'll tell you like a very quick story, and then Catherine, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Hmm.
I had a client some years ago. She was 13-year-old black female. And one of the craziest things she said to me at that time, I was actually in grad school. I was like finishing grad school at that time. And she was telling me how she would always have her phone on, even in the middle of the night. She had to have her notifications on. And it could be like 3 o'clock in
Jesus.
the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and she could somehow see her screen or hear the tone, and then
Wow.
she would wake up. She was like, I have to answer, I have to respond. I was like, why? She's like, well, because then what if they don't see, or what if they think I'm ignoring them, or what if they think that like they're not important? I'm like, well, hold on. What about you preserving your routine? What about your health? I'm sure if they know you guys have a good relationship, that they
Mhm.
will be patient and they'll know that you'll respond to them when you wake up. I'm
Mhm.
thinking more about you. But it was the reason why I share that was the level of control that we talk about, right? Or perhaps influence. I usually like the word influence because I think we sometimes use control, we overuse that word.
Yeah.
The level of influence that social media can have on a young mind in
Yeah.
terms of sucking you in into that becomes your worldview. Like, I don't know who I am outside of this sphere, right? And then to me, that goes back to identity. So I'm using that as a segue back to you, Catherine.
Okay.
So social work, back on the mental health side, you doing this work. So I would like if you can sort of share a little bit about why you wanted to go into that field specifically, especially given your background, and
Yeah.
then how you found yourself connected to Mr. Zaire and getting into involved with empathy.
Great question, RJ. And to be honest, I had the father who cared so much about me as his only child,
Okay.
um, and female child born
Mm,
in his 40s. So I had that level of love and care from my father that said, you will be great. You will be educated. You will know how to function in society. You will be able to take care of yourself.
beautiful.
But one thing that I believe he did great was that he noticed my strengths, and he always saw that I was an advocate. He always saw Catherine's always pulling her resources, giving her stuff away, trying to help people win. And so he noticed that, and he told me, you will go to law school, you will be an attorney. And I'm not gonna say he was wrong, and I'm also not gonna say he was right, because there was a part of me that I was like, no, I want to help people. And he was like, no, you're going to be an attorney, because an attorney is going to sit my daughter where I want her to be, and I can say she's this and she can affect this change, and
Right.
this is what I see for you. And I love that about him. Zaire knows I talk boldly about my father and his level of care and love that he showed me through his influence.
There we
Say
go.
influence. And so when I went to college right after high school, I did choose to get my BSW. I did choose to go into social work, and it was after the first semester. I said, and I have to eat these words, right? But I said at the age of 18, those people aren't doing anything. They're
Mm,
just sitting back and applying band-aids, to real problems, and they're not advocating real change.
right.
I'm going to go to law school. That's what I told myself. And so I was in this weird place of balancing the two components.
Right.
And I stuck out one more class, RJ, and they introduced us to macro social work. And I believe that that's where I figured out that, and I tell people all the time, I don't identify as an entrepreneur, but I do identify as an innovator and a problem solver.
Yeah.
And I felt like social work just wasn't doing that for me originally. But once they introduced that concept of, the macro level of social work, I realized this is where I exist. Catherine exists in the clouds. She is a floating balloon. She's always thinking of, I see the people on the ground,
Hmm.
but how can we help everyone from the aerial view? And so, but it took me 10 years to get there. So I took a
Fair
full
enough.
10-year circle. I switched my major. I got in government. I got a job as a paralegal. I went into the law. I worked in California for this huge firm. And I was like, oh, I hate this. This is, if I never work for another attorney again in my life,
She's like, I'm good.
I'll be all right. And so that put me right smack in trial in the boardroom. I was basically the managing mind of the attorney that I worked for, because they they just want to practice law. They don't want to be a manager. And so that's what I took on, that role of managing, their practice in the law and getting them ready for trial. And I was like, I hate this. these people aren't doing anything either. They ain't even giving out Band-Aids. Like, that's when I took that job in Japan. I graduated with my degree in government. I took that job in Japan. If you ask me, I was doing social work out there and didn't even know it. And I ended up working with social workers and clinicians, and counselors while I was there. I worked in the family support center, where people were coming in for all type of services, and so that's where I got introduced to the services and the world view that social work is, all the different roles that are inside of it, all the ways people practice, all the things that they do, all the connectors, how the connectors connect. And that's where I said, oh wow, social work is so much more than I ever thought it was. And so that was the 6 years, and then the 4 years, and then COVID hit. My divorce happened. My child was born in Japan, and I was like, "This is it, Catherine. You're gonna go back. You're gonna run this 10-year lap. You're going to get the license, and you're going to do the work, and you're going to do it the way you want to do it. You don't have to subscribe to the narrative." I tell Zaire all the time, I struggle with reading the textbook. I struggle with the textbook telling me how to treat humans like human, and then I struggle with the barriers of like, oh, we don't take Medicare and Medicaid. And what I hear you saying is, you don't take low income minorities here, and it's just, I struggle with all those criticisms of this profession, but I also know that this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I've decided early on that I'm going to follow my life's purpose. And my life's purpose is simple. I'm on a mission to influence humanity, to treat people like people. Mm-hmm. And if you notice the mirror of empathy so well, and I want to be an innovator in my field. I want to push this field to move forward past the licensing and the rules and we don't do that tech thing. You got to come find us, and you got to be able to afford us, and you got to come sit and talk to us. And so I saw the accessibility and the revolutionary structure of all these mental health tech companies, which I have my criticisms of them too. Sure. But I saw the accessibility that they were able to have, and the barriers they were able to break, because everyone has a phone,
right?
But everyone doesn't have insurance and a good job to pay for clinical services, or even the access or the know-how or the willingness. But we are on our phones. And so when I saw Empathy, and when I met Zaire, I just felt I've always belonged in the social work playground, but now I found my sandbox. Now I saw, you know what, I can take my skills in understanding human behavior and bring that to tech in a special way, where I'm able to help, people who are in this space like Zaire, with the passion and the mission that mirrors social work's passion and mission of reaching people, and connecting them to humans, in their lived experience and their life stories. And be able to bring that to social media in such a way. I'm also in my 30s. I'm 31. And so you're right. There is a life before social media, but I also realize that now they are who are reaching our kids. Marketing and tech is who are reaching our children, and they're getting them early. Like just yesterday, my 5-year-old asked me, "Mom, do I have to be beautiful all the time?" And it was a gut punch, in my stomach. And I just remember telling her, beauty is not what you look like, it's who you are. And I always imagine parenting my female child of me giving her influence and telling her who she is, and telling her that the way she is the way she's supposed to be, and no one or no outside voices are supposed to come in and deter that. But I also realize that Instagram is waiting to tell her a very different story. And so Empathy's mission and vision just mirrors my life's purpose, and teaching people how to treat people like people. And the tech side of that speaks to my innovation and problem solving narrative, where I want to be a social worker, but I want to do it the way it feels right for me.
Absolutely.
And I also have a child that I don't want influenced by the current structure of social media. I don't want her on social media comparing her ordinary life, her natural hair, her natural body, her life experiences to people's who are on there to monetize and influence and entertain. I,
Yes.
I don't want that. I call the comparison part of social media a socially transmitted disease. And then I realize that there's no fix for that right now. And I just believe Zaire
Right.
has found it. I believe in this mission, and I believe that it can infect and advocate, real change in this space so that our children and the people who are going to grow up with this and the people who are growing up with this can see something outside of what social media is telling them and what it's teaching them,
Yeah.
how they can interact with it. But I also believe that tech needs us. Tech needs mental health clinicians and people in this field. And we also need tech to
Yes.
increase our accessibility. And so it's a marriage that I believe that can happen. And empathy is the avenue that I believe I fit in to help push that narrative forward.
That's beautiful. Man, kudos to you and thank you so much for the sharing. Like everything that you said there, especially the parenting side. Like you were really speaking to me when you were saying that. My son's 11.
Mm.
And so like I just gave him his her cell phone for his birthday. I was very, very hesitant. But it comes with the times. But to your point about the social media though, like I think about that a lot. Cause again, I've had my fair share of young clients and talking to the parents about the influences. One thing I want to say, I want to touch on to your point about the influences with your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I use the term influence, this is like sort of in my time in therapy, that's sort of how I synthesize what I believe parents do to children.
Mm-hmm.
I think we miss that's why I caught myself in terms of control. I think we see it as control and then we get upset when the child gets older and they stop listening to you. I'm like, that's because you never had control in the first place. We only ever can control us. Like we don't control anybody else, including your child. We don't control them.
Yet you don't.
And the reason why is because it's like we have this tug of war, right? When they get like my son's going, he's in sixth grade now. Right beginning of adolescence, right? This is where we start doing this back and forth.
Yeah.
Before you listen to everything, probably without even a second question or a doubt.
Yeah.
Then your friends start getting in your ear, and you're
Mm.
like, maybe I don't need to listen to dad, or maybe I don't need to listen to mom. It's not necessarily because they're bad kids. It's just the natural course of development, right? Of human development. But then that was normal, right? That's what we were used to. Then you add in social media. So why does that make that more challenging? Because you just increase that pool of influence. Now you
Absolutely.
got all these other people like Zaire was talking about earlier. Now you got these people in other parts of the country. So
Mm-hmm.
first, excuse me, first the other parts of the city,
Mm-hmm.
then the other parts of the state, then the other parts of your country, and then other parts of the world.
Absolutely.
So all that comparison is going on. And if you, when we were talking about identity earlier, if you don't feel rooted in yourself, you're like, maybe I am less
Right.
than. Zaire's having he looks like his life is awesome. Man, my life seems like it's
Create
pretty rough,
ungratefulness. It create
right? Right.
ungratefulness. A
Like
lot of
I'm
ungratefulness
not as
starts
conscious
happening.
of it, or I don't have gratitude. It's hard
Right.
to appreciate the things that I have because I'm like, well, but they have that shit. Am I supposed to have that? Or
Right.
they look like that. Am I
Yeah.
supposed to look like that? Like I'm trying to figure all these things out, right? But the problem is, but I'm comparing to all these other people, so it's really hard to formulate my opinion, being solid in who I think I am. And then as you get older, that only gets more challenged because then you go middle school, you go high school. There's more comparisons going on, and you have hormones flowing, and all those types of conversations. So
Right.
it can be increasingly challenging. So I think so much again to you guys' point about the platform. That's what resonated with me. Like just so you guys know, like that's why when I read that, I was like, man, I think that's a beautiful sentiment
Mm.
because as somebody who is raising a young one and hopes to have some more in the future, I do worry. I do look at those things out there, and because I have to see the side effects because of my profession, Kathy, I'm sure you've seen your fair share and
Yeah.
will. Um, it does cause concern because you see how their minds can get warped, not because social media is evil, but it's
Right.
because sometimes when you're getting inundated and bombarded with so much and you don't know how to differentiate, you don't know how to critically evaluate this from this, it all seems the same. And you
Right.
just get
Can I step?
flooded with all this information and flooded all that content. You're like, dang, I guess that's what it is. And
Right.
it can really misshape in you. I think for the future. Sorry, did you want
Can
to
I
say something?
step? Yes, can I step in right there? Because you said you don't
Sure.
think it's evil. I think so. No, they know what they're doing. Like I said, I think before your last story, about the girl who had her notifications on, that's the dopamine
Mm-hmm.
effect. They know what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing, it's it's a dopamine effect, like where they have the same triggers if it was like real like drugs, all that good stuff. That's how they got like these. We got to understand this: when you just have tech alone and just have people look at the analytics, the retention,
Right,
how to
right.
get back on the platform. Like there's not the problem is they'll have people like y'all in tech, y'all people who do the mental health professionals, the therapists. They have to be in tech. They have to in order so you can create responsible tech. When you leave them
Gotcha.
out, is to leave it up to the smart people and the brains, is just who only care about the numbers. You're gonna
Correct.
screw a lot. Yes, you go game that you in the game. Like I said, they $1 billion companies, so they're doing something right, but at the cost of people wellness. And that's what's
Yes.
happening. That's what happens because that nobody's not telling them to stop. There's no RJ, there's no Catherine say, hey, we should rethink this. This is like, okay, I get the profit, but do we need to make this much profit for the like we screwing people up and things like that? There's nobody not telling that.
Facts.
It's like that's why I take pride in I need to have Catherine with me side by side because yes, I'm the vision, but she's here to balance it out. Because they let them know like it's a mental health professional behind this to make sure the alignment is cool. So we not create another Facebook or Instagram and things like that. I think that's the problem. Now there's no mental health professionals in these techs. They just hired people who know how to code, develop, market, brand. That's it. Screw the wellness, all profit. And it's just like,
Right.
but you're looking at the side effect, it's causing a lot of damage. And that's the reason why I attack social media because, once again, Catherine said it, like it's practical. Everybody have a phone. Everybody have a phone. Like, so it's the most accessible. So it's like you have to attack the core problem. Like we just can't just delete social media. I knew that wasn't the problem.
No,
we just can't detox, delete. No, the core have to change. Like it have to change. No, like it's not. No offense, RJ. There's no amount of therapy, no amount of meditation, no matter nothing. If you're going back to the same problem, it's like me. Okay, cool. I'm about to be a vegan for 3 weeks, but if I go back to social media to start going, like it's like you okay. That's the 3 weeks you was clean, but then you go back to the same problem. Like you need to clean up the source. The source, yeah. So it's the core. So that's why I'm all like, okay, it's cool. Get off, delete, cool. But that's not a band-aid. That's not the solution. So like you have to create the core. And that's why at Empathy, when you try to trailblaze a new alley, because one thing I do know, they $1 billion companies. They're not about to change. Like $1 not going to change. They're making billions. We sucked. We sucked in it. Our families on it. We built equity on it. It's kind of hard for us to get off. So the only reason is to trailblaze a whole new avenue to another version of social media. Some people haven't even asked or probably even thought of, but I guarantee once they see it, they go like, you know what? I need this. Like different than airplanes, no different than cars. Nobody asked for this stuff. Once they saw it, I see this useful. No one wasn't thinking about this stuff. Usually only one person or two people were thinking at the time. They saw something more of it. So that's how I look at empathy. Yes, nobody not calling for it, all that good stuff. They don't know what it is yet, but once they see it, they're like, you know what? I think this is balance for me. Yeah.
No, they will. And to your point, and I agree. When I was making that point, I was speaking more from like to give you my example. Like I'll give you like my parenting example, right? Mm-hmm. So my son's not going to be allowed to be on social media probably until he's like 17, something like that.
Good for you, man. Good for
I mean, I control his phone, so like I do control that. So he can't download nothing without me. So I have to prove I have to prove everything. So that's what I meant. Like I think that's where parents have to step in. Like because I can see to the point about the example I brought up with the young lady, I can see the effect of that. There's no way, especially with the work that I do, there's no way in hell I'm going to let my son put himself in that scenario that then I have to then work to deprogram later. That doesn't make any sense. Lord. Why would I want to do that? So however, if a platform like you guys exist, then that might be something I might be more encouraged, because what I will say, again, being I was a late adopter to social media. That's why I'm saying things the way that I am. I didn't jump into anything right off the bat. I'm very late. Like Instagram and TikTok, I'm like just right now this year, 35.
Oh, good for you, man.
So
good for
the reason
you.
why I say that is because, again, I can take it or leave it. I don't. All I see is the ability to spread the message, the ability to connect to people that you otherwise would not. But I'm also an adult man. Right.
Yes.
So
you understand it's a tool. You understand it's a tool.
Yes,
you say
exactly.
You're about to go. You're using it for a specific. That's all. Once you look, like I said, I'm not the big social media. I understand it's a tool, a good marketing tool. It's a phenomenal marketing tool. That's it. That's all I know. It's not for well-being. I know, like, at the same time, I still have my struggles. That's why I understand that. Man, yes, keep your child away from me, all that good stuff. Like,
I am. No, trust me.
no, it's very efficient. No, it's very, very efficient. It's so like it do such a great job. Like they knock down the psychology behind screwing people up to the science. They
I
do
believe
it
it.
so well.
I
Now that's
believe
what
it.
I'm like, please just stay away.
The hooks get in quick, right?
Yeah.
And
Lord.
it's hard to make those switches.
Ooh.
But I agree with you. Like the only thing I took away from it, because I've obviously listened to so many people and tell their stories. So when you talked about isolation, right? This is like a strange catch-22 I've heard,
Yeah.
because sometimes I've heard clients tell me or people tell me that they truly do utilize the community that they can gain, but like you were touching on, you got to be very intentional about who you follow, the content that you subscribe to. Like, let's say, for example, you want to lose weight or you want to develop a community around gaming, whatever that may be, or maybe about a specific game. And you're usually on your own. You're usually by yourself in your room alone, right? Me being sort of old school, I would want you to like be out and about, meet people organically, have conversations, right? But I also understand that that's not the world that we live in only anymore. That can be a tool, as you said, and I agree, a tool to leverage to help you to foster that sense of community. But you have to be intentional. You can't be following everybody and everything, because that can give you that fear of missing out or that fear of being isolated or being alone, or just get caught in that sort of comparison paradox. I don't subscribe to any of that. But some of my younger clients or some people that that I've known, they'll be like, "Hey, that's what I use it for. I use it for a fitness community." Like those of us that are like, I'm trying to like handstand, or I'm getting into yoga, and I'm a teacher, right? Like, oh, okay, that's beautiful. Like that totally makes sense. But we're talking about a lot of them being the young ones, when they really have no idea who they are or what they want and what they desire. And you warp their whole reality of what, from where they would normally be at. That is where I have a problem. That's
Right.
where I think as parents, we have to step in and be very clear about the expectations of what those platforms do. And
Right.
if you don't like them, certainly please don't let them engage with it until they're of age.
Absolutely.
And I
Sorry.
and I
Get off my
remember
soapbox.
and no. That's fine. You said beautiful stuff. Like it's almost like we all can recall this problem. Like I wasn't the richest family growing up. I think we were a bit middle class and things like that. But I did recognize when I was around people who have more than us. I recognized that. Like, oh, that's what I realized. Oh, that's what I realized. Oh, it's a class. It's different classes and things like that.
Sure.
Classism. That's when I finally realized that. But it was such quick. I did. It was like, okay, cool, on off. But now social media is constantly. You constantly realizing, okay,
Yeah. And it affects everything.
oh,
Absolutely everything.
yeah.
Like your emotions, your communication, even your relationships, like even dating culture. Social media comes in and shapes every part of our understanding of life.
Yeah.
People feel as if access is not even a real thing anymore. It's like, oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can just DM anybody, which means I have access to anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm only learning how to communicate through texting. And so going out and actually talking to someone and formulating complete sentences and having the opportunity to respond to someone on the spot organically is not even a life skill that we have anymore, because, oh, wait a minute, I got to think about what I'm going to write, or I got to copy and paste a musician's quote, which aren't even my words, which means I'm going to spend 15 minutes finding someone else's words to express how I feel, forgetting that I have my own words to express how I feel. It's very damaging for that to be happening in your identity formation phase, or even your adolescence or your teenage years, where you're really struggling with communicating and you're learning how to do it through and by social media. It damages so many different life skills that are very hard. It's very hard to learn life skills when they're supposed to be learned. Period.
Oh yeah. Things are happening out of order.
Absolutely. Everything is happening out of order
right now.
for a process that was already hard to navigate. And you're right. As a parent, I'm just thinking, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix something that is so, at this point, social media, like Zaire always says, is still in its infancy stages. We don't even know the true adverse effects that are going to come from people who were born with social media. They haven't even really reached full adulthood yet.
No.
For us to see how adults are shaped when they were born with phones and social media, it hasn't
Oh
even
yeah.
happened yet. It's still unfolding.
No, that's definitely a fair point. One thing I would say to what you were saying, because the reason I started laughing, because I'm like, man, I can't tell you how many times I've said that. Communication, right? You were touching on
Mhm.
communication. And I don't know if you would agree. Let me ask you, Catherine, if you would
Yeah.
agree. Would you say that within the sphere of the different people that you work with, right? I'm asking you on the clinical side.
Okay.
Would you say that for a lot of the people that you work with, do you find that a lot of the issues that exist, even if it's an individual, if it's about a family member, if it's about a couple, boils down to communication or lack thereof?
Absolutely.
Okay. I,
1000%.
I was hoping you're going to say that, because I was going to say that's absolutely what I see like
Yeah.
99% of the time. There's miscommunication, there's lack of it, and then there's sometimes the inability to be able to know how to do it. Right?
Right.
We know that men and women communicate differently, which is
Right.
not like it's one way that's right or wrong. It's just that we're different. But to your point about like the texting and stuff, right? I have friends, I laugh. I have friends that are only like 3 or 4 years younger than me. And I've seen the struggle. Like I've had to call them out. I'm like, listen, it's really hard to communicate with like men. Like it's really hard to communicate with you because like you're not always attentive. Like you take a really long time to respond. Or sometimes like it's hard to not misread what you're texting because there's no intonation, there's no pitch. All I can go off is what I read, and so it's easy to misconstrue what
Yeah.
somebody's trying to say. And going back to your point, it's like we completely like eliminated to a certain degree those soft skills, the
Right.
ability to sit in front of somebody and express and articulate your viewpoints, whatever they may be, even if they're not fully formed here. But if we do everything online, which again, I'm not opposed to certain things we need to learn, like internet etiquette, things like that. But
Mhm.
if you can't sit down in front of somebody and genuinely engage like we're doing right now, that to me is extremely concerning. That is the way we did it for all this time prior to like the internet age. You didn't have the ability, right? You
Right.
were excited to just be on a cell phone
Right.
or have decent internet you didn't get kicked off as soon as somebody answered the phone and you're like, oh crap. Like that's where I came from. But now we're in this age where it's like, man, everything is built on that. And so
Right.
I see some of those side effects from the clinical lens. And then
Mhm.
when you talk about relationship building, it's like, no wonder there's problems in relationships because we don't even know how to communicate appropriately. So how are you going to maintain a relationship with anybody? Not even talking about males and females. I'm talking about daughter to son,
Right.
father to daughter, father to son, mother to daughter, mother to son, grandma, grandpa. We can't even do that because there's
Right.
also generational gaps on
Right.
top of that. Because some people are even more removed from technology, the internet, all of that. So I just really wanted to emphasize that point that you were touching on because I think it's so important. So many of us don't really get to practice those skills in the way that we probably should be to help strengthen that area. I would hope. I don't know if Zaire, if this is something that you guys build into the platform, or I don't even know if this is something that you can touch on. But do you think that any part of like the way people will interact on empathy will be a little bit closer to how actual in real life physical interaction would be as opposed to how it is now on the
I
other
was I was
platforms?
just I was just about to comment on that
Okay.
what you just said because you said a lot of good points and Catherine you made some kind of good points as well like oh damn you said so many good things. One thing I'm summing it up like people losing their voices. People are
Hmm.
losing their voice instead of like usually like in a way we've grown up we try to find our voice. You lose your voice on social media. You don't know what is your voice because now you just say okay which is the most trendiest, which we got the most like I'll follow that. This what's the most popular and things like that. So you really don't you never find yourself. You just following what's hot and you just always following the wave and never finding who you are. So you saying losing your voice and like you said copy and pasting like dude that was it touched me. And then even to the what you said with communication
Hmm.
what resonate within me when you said like texting is the biggest like, form of miscommunication Like you
Yes.
can say, it's so many things you're just missing, all that good stuff, and that's why now, oh my god, before we move on, I'm going to touch on this topic. Get things like that. So thank you for asking the question.
Yes,
But
sir.
yes, empathy was like that's empathy, folks. You only can share you can share content two ways. So empathy is via video or audio. Why?
Okay.
Because it's that immersion, all that goes to recreate the human experience. You only can share it up to you only can share up to 2 minute clips of video or audio. Why? Because people short attention span, all that good stuff. I think 2 minutes is
Right.
good enough to get your story off, whether it's good or bad, whatever, all that good stuff. So yes, we try to recreate enough human elements on empathy. Like for example, to make friends on empathy. I mean, to make friends on empathy, you have to communicate with one another. There's no add button. There's no follow button. How you do it?
Right. Right.
Through communication, just like in real life. Communicate. You have to talk to one another and things like
Hmm.
that. That's how you build friendships. Is how you build friendships in real life. So I try to. Okay, cool. How can I take real life and apply it to online? That's the whole thing. That's all I'm trying to do. A digital version of online that feel a little bit more real. All that
Love
good
that.
stuff. So we can have those human skills again and things like that. To like I said, to be able to self-express and to
Hmm.
have these conversations because like I said, it gets to the point. Like I said, that and there's no likes button on empathy. All that, because no likes,
Okay.
no views. One, the reason why there's no likes is because that's another way of not communicating. Like, no, remove that. If you want to say what you got to say, write it or express it and things like that. Express yourself, all that good stuff. We need, like I said, need more conversation need to be had. The reason why we have these issues is too much likes, is too much sharing, and not enough people talking and shit, sharing their thought. We need to have more
There you go.
discourse. We need to work healthy discourse and things like
Right.
that, and an ability to have empathy within it. That's why on empathy, like we have a zero tolerance for trolls, online bullying, all that good stuff. Like we want empathy. We try to build an empathetic platform. We can have different views and still have empathy. Like if you have nothing good to say, don't say it. You have
Yeah.
like if you
Keep it
want to
simple.
troll, that's why just like that's why we're not trying to replace Facebook. We're not trying to replace Instagram. Okay, if you want to troll and be online, go
Go
there.
over
But
there.
go over there. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying you not you. I'm saying you don't have to do it, but you're not gonna do it here. Like it's other
Correct.
platforms where you just can't be you, say your thoughts, all that good stuff. There's no consequences. Empathy is consequence. You troll one time, you're banned for life. You're banned for life means you need a whole other phone to download empathy. You just can't re-download it, all that good stuff. Why? Because I understand if a person share it, because how I look at empathy, it's gonna be 3 tiers of people. 3 tiers of people. That's how I break it down. That's how we always break it down. 3 tiers of people.
Hmm.
Your first tier of people who already self-express, who already open, maybe like you, maybe like myself, maybe like Catherine, all that good stuff. They open up, they
Okay.
share their story, they own it, who they are, all that good stuff. Cool. And when they do that, they see, oh, they getting good engagement from that. People talking to them, people relating, all that good people content, like you said earlier, people was reaching out to you, things like that, just based off based off the content that you're putting out.
Right. Right.
And then you have your tier two people. Tier two people are just on the fence. They want to get on, but they don't want to get on. Like they want to share, they want to share, but they don't want to share all that good stuff. They just watching all that good stuff, but they want to, but they looking at tier one group of people. Wow, they get all of this engagement just by sharing their stories. And they think to themselves, I got stories too. I'm about to share mine, all that good stuff. So they get on board,
Right.
share their stuff. And then you have your tier number three. Tier number three groups of people who don't want to share it all. They take these stories to the grave. They're not with this, they're not about it, all that good stuff. They're not for that life. But they see tier one, tier two sharing openly, getting all of this good engagement. And they say, what the hell? I'm about to share my story. But if that one person, they got the guts and share their story, and that one person troll or do something crazy and cause them to feel they finally shared their story and they had a poor experience because somebody else would be a troll or say something crazy, things like that. That person may never share it again because it took them for a lot just for them to share it. So
Hmm.
that's why the punishment is so harsh. Like you banned for life. Just because your one action could cost them to never share again. I knew I should never share this. I knew I should have kept this to myself. I knew nobody would understand me. You feed into these thoughts they already had. You just
Yeah.
confirmed it. So it's just like, yeah, it's that we take it that seriously. Like it's really low, zero tolerance. I mean, we tell people right away, hey, if you want to screw up, you get banned, all that good stuff. So that's how serious we have it on, just because, like these stories we have, these are babies. Like, yes, it's easy to share the highs, but these low moments, this is a whole new territory. We got to just see how this. Like, it's going to take a lot of empathy and understanding, and just accept that. Okay, cool, and don't judge. Like one thing I hate, don't grow growth, have all this growth and start judging people when you was once at. You was once there. You just grew.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Woo.
You
Big
yeah,
facts.
you just elevated. You just elevated. Don't start looking down on people who was once where you was at. Show
Yeah.
empathy, have understanding, give insight and things like that. So is that as well, like having this empathy on this platform, because we all had struggle moments. We all can relate to the struggle. Like human life,
Yes.
we all battle through something, we all struggling through something. So we can understand, okay, yours may be here, mine's may be here, yours may be here. It's still it's still struggle. It's just in different areas. It's just having that empathy towards
Absolutely.
that. So that's how that's where the ability of people will be able to be more open once people say, because I'm all about, okay, once people see you can be yourself and there's no judging, people just treating like this is all about the human experience, we are good. As long as it's all under the human experience, we are good. Can that, like, and can that openness cause like side effects down the road? Yes, I'm not going to say empathy could be 100% foolproof at all.
Right.
Empathy not going to have it's going to be, we may have our that uh our experiences of like people taking it too far, all that good stuff. We may have to adjust in there, but it's like I said,
Mhm.
I don't look at empathy as the perfect solution. I look at empathy as a big step in the right direction. That's it, and we just progress from there. All that good stuff. So that's all I can. That's why I just always try to preference there. Like empathy is not the end all be all solution. It's not
Sure.
the. It's
Sure.
not the. I always try to tell people you want empathy. We're not trying to make you happy. That's
Hmm.
the goal. Is not trying to make you happy. The goal is just to show you it's okay to be human. That's all you would get from
Yeah.
empathy. You will see, oh, it's okay to be okay. It's okay not to be okay here. Oh, awesome. That's all you would get from empathy. There's no, we're not trying to fix you. We're not trying to medicate you. We're not trying to say no. We try to say this is the human platform. Empathy could be
Yeah.
called the human app. So sorry for that long soliloquy, but I just have to
No,
just
no, no,
break down
no.
the whole platform of what we
Very
do
needed.
and yeah, what we do. And like I said, there's no filters on empathy as well. Like there's no none of that. We just come as ourselves. There's no blue
That's
checks
big too.
either. Like it's always try to just create this equal. Like if you want this hierarchy, go to Instagram. If you want this, like go to
Yeah.
Instagram. If you want this hierarchy, the superiority, go to these other platforms.
Like
Man, on empathy, everybody,
I'm less than type deal.
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We go on empathy. Everybody's the same. That's it. We're just human.
Yeah.
If you feel if you feel comfortable uncomfortable but being equal to the rest of everybody, go to somewhere else. So you have your superiority and things like that and vanity. But empathy, we all gonna be equal. There will be no separation. We're all here the same. We're all human beings. And I think we
Yeah.
need that because that's the middle ground. That's the middle ground.
Agreed.
The reason why we do this stuff so much. The reason why we chase after money. The reason why we follow these trends and things like that. Like, yes, most people like they want a better life, but for other people, they just want to be accepted. That's it. If people just can be accepted off their base level, like they won't go up this stuff. They can, if people just can get, can we all want to be loved, heard, and accepted. That's it. If we can get that at the base level, we are not striving for all, not everybody's striving for after this wealth, success, and things like that because we got what we want. We
Right.
got our human needs. Because I always say empathy was built off of 3 human principles. If you take away money, success, accolades, money, success, accolades, anything that you call life itself, things that we call like the human things that we call life itself. All we had left is emotion, stories, and community. Those 3
Mhm.
principles are what empathy built off of. Those 3 things what got us here. We didn't have all of this stuff like 1,000 years ago. We didn't have none of this stuff. All we had was our emotions, our stories, and the community. That's all we had, and it got us here. So it's almost like let's go back to the basics because the
There
basics
you
got
go.
us far. Let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the normal stuff and things like that. Let's see and let's try again. Because clearly we failed
Agreed.
the first time. Let's try again. And that's all it is. It's really a basic concept. I'm not trying to overshoot it. I'm not trying to overshadow. I'm not trying to be TikTok. I'm not trying to be Instagram. I'm not trying to be Facebook. I'm just trying to be a regular human being so we can say, okay, it's okay to be human. We can't be
Heard.
robots. Because like I said, y'all
Heard.
got kids, man. Like nobody want their kids to be robots. Like, no, be yourself. Be your like
No.
full whole 11-year-old. Be Kelsey full whole 5-year-old and things like that. So you're not chasing after the wind. That's always going to be changing. Like what you try to chase after, it's going to change again. It's going to change again. You will never have enough money. You will never have enough success. It will always keep changing, and you will never win.
Mm-hmm.
This is a never win the game. You'll never win.
Zero
So
sum
yeah,
game. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. So that's all I'm saying.
Nah, no, I'm with it. Catherine, did you want to? I was gonna comment, but yeah, I think you wanted to say something first. So
I I think the only thing that I will say is that I love Empathy's bold initiative. And that's why I'm behind this initiative. We don't know what social media looks like without likes and followers and blue checks and
Mm-hmm.
the ability to the ability to only connect with people who we believe has some sort of like lifestyle that we want and we don't have. We
Right.
really want people to come on here and be able to understand that before you were anything, you were emotion, and your story is valuable. And I even down to the algorithm used on empathy is focused on the human experience, focused on the user. There are no stories that will be prioritized over anyone else's stories
Beautiful.
because they're seemingly somehow more important. And I believe that that's true about how we treat our offline life. I believe that the human emotion of empathy is easier to show,
Mm.
in the real world, so to speak, but it just hasn't tapped into the digital world. We just
Heard.
haven't mastered how to bring what we do in our real life, how we treat our core, yeah, people in our core circle, the people that we care about, the people that we even strangers on the street at this
Yeah.
point. We're able to empathize with more than we are with people online. And it's such a unique correlation of thinking we do these things already
Yeah.
in our real life, some better than others, but there's still an existence there. Why is it not okay here? Why are we only our best selves here? Or why are we playing these comparison games so much so where we're hiding ourselves? Um,
Right.
but what I love about, Zaire's vision is that he is really not afraid to throw these things out there and see, how far it's gonna go and
Right.
how it's gonna be accepted. And like he said, there may be the collateral damage. There may be those things that just don't land exactly where we see them landing.
Mm-hmm.
But like he said, that bold step in the right direction is what we need more than anything. To say that there is a better way to do this and someone is willing to take that chance,
Absolutely.
it's worth it.
Oh,
It's
I
worth
agreed.
pushing the narrative. It's worth seeing what social media looks like. I mean, we're all here in our 30s. We remember MySpace, and
Oh
we
yeah.
remember why we got on MySpace, and
Top
we remember,
six music.
right. We remember when it first came on the scene, and it was like, I'm just getting on here to see what my friends are doing. I don't care about people in the next city. I don't care about people in the next state. And I dang sure don't care about people in the next world. It was just like,
Yeah.
I just want to know what the people who I already talked to are doing.
When we're not around each other.
When we're not around each other, not 24/7 in the middle of
Right.
the night, all day, every day. It's just we really got away from that. And I think Zaire in his vision is he's thinking, let's go back to community and stories and emotions, because that's why we got MySpaces. That's really what we wanted.
Yeah.
It way back in its original stage, and we just took a hard left turn, and it just
Yeah.
became something that we use to just, it's like we're not even leading it anymore. It's not even led off of how we actually feel. There's times where I'm like, I don't even want to engage with this, but I do.
No, no. No, I just want to make one quick point to what you just said right there, because I have clients that have told me that, like when people say they have to take like detoxes and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
again, I never understood. I never had any context for it because
Yeah.
I literally didn't even have half these apps on my phone because I'm like, I don't get notifications from these things. I don't know. I'm the weird guy. I feel like an old guy. I'm like, I'm logging into the desktop version because I don't want it on my phone. But anyway, but they'll tell me that they'll be like, yeah, I had to like delete it off, for like a few months, and I feel so much better. But all my friends or many people I know that are on there, I'm like, yeah, but then like you just said, but think about how you feel.
Yeah.
That like Zaire, that was the point you were making earlier. If I'm feeling better and I'm doing better, then why would I go back to that?
Right.
Or at least if you're going to utilize it as the tool, as I would say, be more intentional about how you're going to use that tool. Don't, and even to your point, Catherine, then don't get led by it. Like when I'm putting stuff out there, it's literally like this type of stuff, because I want to spread that type of because I hope that this touches somebody. Because I know if I was young and I was trying to use these different platforms, that's what I want to consume.
Something real.
Right. Real.
And,
good, bad, and different.
I try my best not to put my. It's like those some heavy expectations to put on people. Like it's like sometimes like I get that everybody's not going to be that way. Like it's like I try to be in reality. I understand like it's hard to change. It's hard to change your mind. That's
Yes, sir.
it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to change. Like change your own mind's a 24/7 job, and you try to change somebody else's mind. It's just a whole. It's hard. So all
Yes.
all you can do is just try to help people. Cause
Right.
it's a reason why Amazon's so successful. Why? Because that 1 day to 2 day shipping conveniency. People like convenience. We are
Oh
late.
yeah.
We in the most we in a lazy generation. That's why whoever
Yes, we
create
are.
tech that's more convenient for us,
Instacart,
they win. Yeah,
Yes.
there you
DoorDash.
go. That it's just like once again, you got to be creative. You got to
Yeah.
understand who you are dealing with as people. Yes, we can say these ideas, but at the same, okay, cool. Think big, think in reality, and things like that. And that's when I always try to think in a reality. I'm not trying to put those they're great expectations, but it's like it's just not the reality. It's like it's very like
Right.
you shoot yourself in the foot. You try to expect yourself from from people, all that good stuff. To have this, because what you were saying is
Yes.
a very mature mindset to recognize it's a tool. That's very very hard. Like I'm trying you either have that ability to be able to do it. That's rare. That's very very rare. The fact you say I don't need this in my life and just move on like everything's normal. That's rare. I don't expect that for everybody. I expect that's RJ experience. Everybody else, everybody else it's a struggle.
It's like that's his
So
standard.
like
Everybody else.
yeah. So yes, I put you in a silo. I can't put that on everybody because I know like it is what it is. That phone is vicious, man. Like
Yeah.
outside the apps, it's the phone. The phone is vicious. Is always there. And going back to Catherine's point, the reason why I say is we're fella hell. Elon Musk about to try to shoot people into space. All that because it's a 99% chance people going to die. People are going to die. They will try to go to Mars and things like that. There is a good chance they going to die. But guess what? It's worth the failure. It's something just worth the failure. Something's just worth the failure. Hey, I may fail, but hey, you know what? I love his quote. He said, I rather be optimistic and wrong and pessimistic and right. So
Right. Because then
like
nothing
I
changes.
always yeah, so I'd rather just have that mindset. Me, my little delusional, me, my little delusionist, and things like that. Like, oh, this black kid about to change whole social media. Oh well, I'm gonna believe that. Like, why not me?
Dream
All
big.
that good
Dream
stuff.
big.
Why not
Why
me?
not? Yeah, why not? Like, so why not? So you have to do these things, and like I said, something's got to be bigger than yourself. Like I don't have kids, but I
Facts.
understand the effects and things like that. I understand it. I understand, like, bro, I'm looking at my mirror. I don't want nothing to happen to my mirror, all that good stuff. Like, I get the world's already hard as it is. This social media element, like it was never there at first. Now it's just making things way more harder. No, life is hard by itself.
Yes, sir.
Reality is hard by itself. Social media just add this extra layer that don't need to be on top. That's why suicide rates be high. Just because of this crazy social pressure. That's all it is social pressure, new social standards. You gotta be successful at even more early age. It's like, God damn, can I just be kids? Can people like not
Can I just grow?
not yeah, not everybody want to be successful. Not everybody's success look the same. Like we have this standard towards success. It's like why we just can't live out in our old silos? Why this cannot look like success for me? Like why I cannot have my 9 to 5 job and that be good enough for me? Why do I got to go after this? And if I don't go after this, why do I got to be looked at as lame or I don't have enough? It's like it's
Yes,
creating all of
yes,
these
yes.
things. It's like social. Bro, I can understand why the suicide rate is be up, especially amongst men, because they're like all this pressure, and men got to be rich now. It's like they had a 6 figures, like bro, like 40, like like
No.
half a man in America, like they make like 40K. Like we're okay. No, they social be creating these new standards of what
Yeah.
man's supposed to have, and this is not that's
Right.
not reality. It don't
Thank
translate to
you.
reality. Like the
Thank you.
stat
Thank you.
says they're like most men, black and white, they make an average of like $40,000 a year, all that because around that level, all that good stuff. So it's just like where all these new, like I said, these new ideologies coming from social media, and it's more and they following, like I said, these celebrities. Like no, let celebrity lives be celebrity lives. That's not reality. So
Not for the
like
vast
we
majority
merging,
of us.
Right.
yeah. So it's like it's a scary thing of merging social media into reality, and that's why I always Catherine said it like we. We go back to the relationship. I think she said this to me. She said we're moving very very far from traditional marriage and traditional, anything, all the traditional stuff is moving far because all these new ideologies. It's just like, bro, and I always say, I don't know how people want to find love this day and age, and we don't fix this because the standards is too damn high. They're unrealistic. And just like, even when, even when an argument happened, no, I need to find, no, this person is I'm trying to protect my peace. Like, no, people have arguments. People have disagreements in relationships. That's a part of relationships and things like that. Y'all two human beings trying to merge your ideologies together. Mindset is going to be some friction there. But as soon as there's a friction now, people just leave because social media, all of these other guys in my DMs, I can talk to them and just keep trying. I mean, like I said, Catherine spoke on it. Like I said, put us in a whole new. That's a whole nother conversation with building a relationship. But she opened up kind of words.
It is. It absolutely is. Trust me, I could probably talk to you for a whole day.
Hey, Catherine, open it up. Now I'm all like, let me just dive in on. Let me touch on these few parts that she touched on, man. Because it's real.
No, but I love what you said, especially when you're talking about the expectations, and even when you're talking about the relationship aspect where the communications break down. That's something I agree with you. I think that's something I actually would be scared if I'm a young man, not only because I'm being, I'm essentially having to compete with older men who are much more, financially independent and stable and established, right? Because they've just had time. That's everybody deserves time to grow. But this mentality of like, I'm just about to leave and I can just go get something else real quick to replace you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, I don't know how you're getting your information, but take it from me. You can't just plug and play people. We all have very different, unique lived experiences, personalities, perspectives. You don't want to have this mentality of, I can take you or I can leave you, even when you've invested significant time, energy, and resources into that person. Because you're not just going to go out there and find it. I know it might appear that way, but you can't. I'm just telling you, you won't go find it. If you really want to make it work, as you were just saying, you got to put in the work. Right. Because we're two different people, we don't see things the same way. That's what we were talking earlier. That's why we went on, all three of us went off on a long tangent about communication, right? Because we know that that's true. We all communicate differently. You can't expect to say, I'm going to communicate with Catherine one time and everything that I say, she caught it exactly the way I wanted her to. And everything that she shared with me that I caught it, right? We understand that, but we're not, I feel like going back to the empathy concept in grace, as I would say, we live in this society now. It feels like we're so quick to judge. We don't give it, like you were saying, Zara, we don't give each other that space to grow, to make the mistakes, to fail, to learn, to develop adversity, to develop resiliency, to overcome adversity. We don't give each other that space. Well, we have this somehow, it seems like we as a society, maybe, have decided to transition to this point where these are the expectations. Everybody didn't get that memo. So every time you violate it, we cast you to the side and we sort of vote you off the island. You're never allowed to return. You're never allowed to come back. You're never allowed to resolve the
Where's
issue
the society?
and learn from the experience. Right. What happened to community? You're allowed to make those mistakes. We would expect nothing less of a young person, Catherine, for your child, for my son, for anybody else's child, or any just other young person who doesn't know any better. Right. That's why we talk about representation. What do you do when you don't have anybody I'm sorry, I'm trying not to go off on a tangent, but when you don't have anybody those guidance, right? How do you not make those mistakes? And then if we keep raising the standard even higher and they don't even got that part down, how do you expect them to ever catch up? So we just kind of keep throwing people away like they don't matter. And that
and the pressure rate increases because they feel like I am drowning. I don't know what to do. Anxiety, sky high, like, oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up and do this. I'm getting left behind. Okay, they're already this far down. Now they're leaving me even more. Like, and then man, it's just like this pressure. That's all it does. And like, what do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to react to? It's like, man. Dude, it's just like it's going to have side effects. Like, cool, raise the you want to keep raising the bar, cool, but just understand what you're doing to people. Like, at the end of the day, they're people. At the end of the day, they're people. Like, and I think that's why I said we look at it as everybody as robots these days. Like, no, we have breaking points. It's some things so much we can take. And like I said, that's just social media. We talk about reality. Reality had its own whole new set of rules we didn't even touch on. We just talk about a whole digital space. We didn't even touch on reality. Reality is whole different narrative.
Because that takes so much time, right? And so much energy. If we even went in and tried to incorporate that, it's like, man, we would be talking here for days. trying to touch on, well, this is what life is going to throw at you, but then this is what you're dealing with just because you're engaging with these different platforms, and this is what people tend to talk about and promote
And
and
create this
encourage.
social pressure, this toxic social pressure never before seen. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're lucky. I'm 31. You're 31. Catherine's 31. You're 35. That we know what life was without this, so it don't affect us as
Yes.
much. But it's like for
No.
the young generation, if this is all they have, it's like God to them. Like, no, this is the standard. Like, Dad, you won't
Yeah.
understand. This is the standard. I need to live up to it. Like, no, you can't tell them, no, it was a life before. No, that's your experience. His experience is this. That's all. He sounds like, no, Dad, you're crazy. All I know is this. All my
Right.
friends are here. I need to do this. They're not outside.
Right.
They're not playing the life that we once lived. That's why I say we can't put our lives on our kids, because it's all they
Correct.
have is this. That's their
Correct.
new life.
It's very
So it's like,
different.
Mhm.
oh Lord, man.
No, you're right. That's part of that transition.
It's part of the
Yeah,
transition.
and I understand, like you said, how those conversations could be tough. Like, really, it's like, that's why I said the only way to do it is, like I said, change the platform, because, or not change the platform, but create a different platform to mitigate some of this. Or you just slow it down some. It's not going to fix
I
it. It's
love
always
that.
going to be there. The vanity will always be there, but just slow down some of the bleeding, and that's it, man. Till we find new
Agreed.
healthy ways to do this, because we're bleeding
love
out too
that.
fast.
I want to give you a comparison, actually, when you said that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will ring true, but I want to give you an example. Like, this is a personal example. It's from a health perspective, because you talked about, like, when you need an alternative to be able to challenge the viewpoint, right? And I
Mhm.
really believe that in
Yeah.
therapy. That's why we
Yeah.
journal. That's why we externalize our feelings, because until you can have something to compare to, it's very hard to objectively try to critique and give yourself feedback, right? Or somebody else to give that to you, right? So here's my
Yeah.
example. I'm a vegetarian. I've been vegetarian for 6 years. Nobody in my family is, on neither side of my family. But I make that point because it wasn't until I was challenged. This was actually in graduate school. It wasn't until I was challenged to try to do something different. One of my classmates, she was a vegan, so she challenged the class to do this. It was for an assignment. And the point was, I stepped up to it. I tested it out. It went completely against my status quo. At that point, I was 29 years old, and I had never even contemplated doing this. But why am I even bringing this up and trying to relate it? Because it gave me something else to compare how I felt, how my body felt, how I was responding, how I was
love it.
adjusting, how much energy I had. And then I switched, because I was like, man, I don't have indigestion. I feel more energetic. I feel like I'm able to still get the nutrients and the lifestyle that I would like.
Jesus, man.
And that made me feel good. Now, I don't demonize other people who don't walk my path, but I just talk about, this is what I do. And because somebody challenged me in my thinking, it caused me to consider an alternative. And then I did it. And then I really got rooted in it. I was like, this feels quite different than what I'm accustomed to, even though my family didn't understand and still struggles to understand. But my point
That's a perfect analogy. No, that's
I think
a perfect
about
analogy.
that to your platform, because in my mind, that's how your platform sounds.
Mhm.
Try this. See how this could be. You might find that you might really appreciate the level of authenticity and the genuineness that you're seeing from somebody, as opposed to sometimes this fictionalized version of what somebody's life appears to be. And I don't support that, because, as you said, it's not sorting the totality of what the lived experience is. You're only showing those great moments. I want to see all of it, because we all know there's more that goes into that.
That's way more.
Right? There's all these failures that we've had to all overcome.
And I guess it's challenging. And you can push it back to Catherine, so she gets some talking time. Like, we accept this concept of, like, we accept this concept of the underdogs, the rags to riches. We accept that story in real life. We embrace it. Hell, rap music all about that. In hip hop, the black culture, we accept coming from nothing to something. But some screaming, that stuff get demonized online. Like, wait, what happened? We accept it. It's movies literally made about these things. When people have this tough story, they are inspiring. But why is that as? You see what I'm getting at? Like, okay, we appreciate it. We accept these concepts, yin and yang. We accept the light and dark. We accept these concepts, these principles in real life. We need to accept them online. That's the only way, because we understand they both. We don't demonize. We don't demonize the underdog story. We root for the underdog. Like, yeah, soon they get on the ground, man. Hope he get back. And then when he finally get there, we celebrate. Why? Because we knew their journey. We knew they came from a hard background. We knew they came from nothing, and we celebrated. And we say, and we get, and we look at, if they can do it, I can do it. Like that's a balanced social media. You know how much it could go so. Now, this is me just being my. If I could think in a perfect scenario, that's where I can see what it can happen. We have those balanced stories, where you see a person struggling on empathy, all of a sudden they bounce back. They're having good stories, things like that. Like, oh snap, you see both sides, and it's like it's more. You want to say congratulations, like a genuine congratulations. Like, I saw your whole walk. You share both sides. You get a nice little palette of the vegetables, like the meat. It give you like a nice little palette. Like, you know what? This is more digestible. So it's just like that's how I see it, man. Like I said, us as Americans, us as a Western society, we accept these principles already. We just don't do it online. It's like just try to crack that code, that Da Vinci code. How can we accept this online? How can we market this in a way to be accepted online so it can be cool? So that could be the new way of going about things. I believe it is already, because you look at society, we all want to be accepted, diversity, inclusion. And people want to express themselves, people want to be themselves. We're pushing that direction. That's what I'm saying. But empathy is built for that world, that new world that's coming fast. Empathy is built for that new world of people who want to express. Because these Gen Zers are way different than us. They want to be. They're a little bit more open than us and things like. They want the authenticity and things like that. So that's what I see. You can push it back to Catherine, all that good stuff. So
I agree.
Push it back to Catherine.
No, it's good. I'm gonna give you guys both the final question, but I'm gonna start with Catherine. But we've already been kind of touching on it, but I want to, you take this however you want to take it. But I want to ask for you, Catherine, about like your future goals that you have for yourself, whether it be personal or professional, or maybe it's just with the platform overall. Where do you see yourself going in the near future? Where do you want to be created in the near future for yourself?
This is a two-sided question for me. I'll say first, I want to push my profession to see it outside of its tradition. I want to innovate in our field. I want to push our licensing restrictions, because throughout my conversations with a lot of clinicians about empathy, there's pushback. It's saying like, oh, this could potentially put my license at risk. I can only practice here. And if I engage this way and the rules, and someone believes that I've established, a clinical relationship with them, my license could be at risk. And it almost deters mental health professionals from engaging with tech when they're so needed. They're needed at the table. They're needed in these discussions. They're needed providing these services, and they're needed developing these platforms. And I believe it's a simple fix. It just requires innovation. It requires a new way to look at the world, understanding that tech is the future. And if we really want to be effective at what our profession set out to do, and our mission and our ethics, they need to be remodeled. And I hope that what I bring to Inpathy and Inpathy's users and Inpathy's team is the understanding that this marriage needs to happen. And no one needs to be left behind, so to speak. There shouldn't be tech companies profiting off of human suffering, and just because we simply can't show up at the table. We simply can't say that this is how humans interact with other humans, or this is how humans interact with tech, or this is how humans interact with these conversations that are being had in real life. We'll talk to our friends about them. And these are the effects. Like you said, you see so many effects through your clients. And that's why I love the way you see your own practice when you told me before that I want to reach more people. I want to do what I'm doing, but reach more people. And so I believe that we need to champion that among our profession. We need to champion our profession to push outside of the people who contact us or the people that we talk to on the daily basis. And we need to find a way to do that feels good for us, because the startups are difficult. And I don't believe that everyone belongs in every place. but we
Sure.
need to set soldiers in more places than our profession has kind of set our soldiers. You know, like
Fair
we're all
enough.
blending in now, so to speak. And I just think that for me, that's an important mission for me. It's an important mission to even now, you know, with my colleagues, they're always like everything's singular. It's like I'm going to graduate, I'm going to do this, I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to follow the therapist track.
Hmm.
This is what I want to be because this is what feels acceptable for me. And I just always inspire them to think outside of that.
Heard.
Okay, there's something else you can do with these skills. These skills are valuable, and they're becoming even more valuable as the world is transitioning and evolving way past life skills. Like
Absolutely.
before I came back to being a social worker, I just call myself a life skills professional. I was like, I just want to teach people life skills. I just want to go back to what it means to have those fundamental skills to to live your life. And
Hmm.
that's just understanding that you are a human. And and I just push them to think outside of those traditional roles. Those traditional roles will always be there, and you can fill those traditional roles, but you can also have a mission behind it where
Absolutely.
you're trying to reach outside of your clients, and you're trying to reach outside of where our standards have been set. So that's my main goal for the future for me.
Beautiful.
Is And then it's also to bring Empathy's mission to life. Obviously, I believe in it. It mirrors my experience. It is me. I believe that I have found my place on the playground, the social work playground, and I really hope to be an innovator and a problem solver in this space, and to allow please allow me to say it, like to allow other Black women to understand that we do belong here, and to understand that we can transfer our skills. We can take all of our clinical skills and we can disrupt, a sector that isn't for us. And we feel like we don't belong. We
Hmm.
feel like we have nothing to contribute, and we feel like our voices aren't being heard. And even in our own culture, it's hard for people to accept things like therapy and help,
Yes.
in and of itself. And I think that seeing more people, Empathy's triumph story of, a Black man promoting people, inspiring transparency, and having authentic connections, and trying to disrupt a space where, I'll say it, he doesn't necessarily belong, and to push that narrative and be able to tell that triumph story. I just see it, my daughter, a 5-year old, being able to see herself in people like us. And that's what I really want. I just want our children to be able to see themselves and to be able to
Heard.
outside of what the culture and society is telling them is acceptable, and to look up and be like, oh wow, they look just like me, and they did that. They brought that vision to life, and
Hmm.
these things are what are valuable for me. This is what mirrors my life's mission. And
Love that.
and I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. I wish I would have entered social work and I'm just going to shake everything up 10 years ago. But here I am with my lived experience, and I'm
Hmm.
thankful for that. I'm thankful for that 10-year circle. I'm thankful for my experience with the military, and my experience with, Gen Zers, as we like to call them, my experience as a mother, my experience as a divorcee, my experience, everything that I'm now bringing to my practice, and
Hmm.
bringing to my clinical skills, and bringing to empathy.
Yeah. No, that's, hey, listen, I really appreciate all of that you just shared. I think that's very profound. Even if you're talking about just the level of transparency, obviously, that we're trying to create, both on an individual basis as like a clinician, but then on the broader scale, what you're touching on about the platform. And
Yeah.
again, that's why how I even found you guys. That's how I even saw the mission. I was like, man, like that's a dope story. Like I think that it is needed. And again, yeah, like as you said, Zaire, to you, man, kudos to you as a man to have the foresight to even want to tackle that type of task. Because again, like I know for a lot of men, like we're already not naturally comfortable in those spaces a lot of the time. So the fact that you even felt emboldened enough to want to do that, I think, it clearly is a testament, because you have clearly somebody as talented as Catherine that is speaking very highly of you and of the platform. So I think that it sounds like it's going to do amazing work. I do want to ask you, Zaire, if that's okay, like where are you guys in that process, or how accessible is it as of yet?
Right now, we're still in the pre-seed stage. We're still raising funds, all that good
Mhm.
stuff. It's a lot of understanding Black founders gonna have it the growth process again, product to market. It's gonna take a little bit longer, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of acceptance of that because I'm in an all white, predominantly all white male space, and majority of people, like all my competitors, are not like minority, all that good stuff, like minority women. And like I said, it's different. It's different. It's definitely different. So our path is our path right now. Right now,
Sure.
we're part of an accelerator called Headscreen, backed by Second Muse, supported by Melinda Gates. She's big in the digital wellness space and things like that, try to create better tech. So
Yeah.
we're basically just going, like I said, our journey, just like I said, constantly going up the ranks, all that good stuff. But we hopefully we see ourselves out, probably, hopefully, no, the fourth quarter coming up. So hopefully
Okay.
first quarter, early next year, all that good stuff. But we'll see. Like I said, the Black experience, I think it's a reason why there's no Black owned mainstream social media apps, especially one like this. It's very difficult. It's very,
Yeah.
very difficult. So even what Catherine touched on, like not only when empathy succeed, to be able to push that transparency, to normalize moves, all that good stuff, you get to have that image of like, like there's a Black creator and a Black woman, strong Black woman, help build this, help create this, and things like that. And that's gonna be new. That's gonna be two new things happening at one time. Like, oh snaps!
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing something new. Also, it was created by Black folks. And you
Yeah.
already know once Black folks start touching stuff and things like that. Like once we get our hands on stuff, we make it.
Start blowing
We do
up.
things different. We do things differently, man. We do things differently.
No
We
doubt.
definitely do things differently. And hopefully that inspires more people. Because I always tell Black folks this all the time. I think tech is our last bus. Like the future is tech. This is our last bus for financial wealth or things like that. We need to know because the job will be getting it could be automative. There'll be a lot of automated
Right.
services, things like that. You go shopping, Whole Foods or Walmart. It's a lot of self checkout. That stuff will get weird.
Right.
That's that. What you see trial runs right now.
Right.
It's gonna be a standard 5 to 10 years from now. So I'm just letting people know that like you
Agreed.
have to get into. You need to know code. You need to know something because like all these other jobs will get taken by computers. Like if they don't have to pay you a salary and things like that, all you gotta do is pay to fix a robot or tech code it once and that's it. I got vacation days, none of that type of stuff. They will. So it's just like I
Hmm.
always try to hopefully, but like I said, I know Black people we go off of finance. It's a reason why people like football, basketball, all that good stuff. They see the
Right.
checks they bring in, but when they see like the average tech founder, if it's a successful one, you can name like an Uber or Airbnb, like they worth billionaires more than
Yeah.
any like they do it pretty quickly. Probably I think 5 to 6 years. So like people can just put that in perspective. Like this is athletes is cool. That's cool, but being a tech, being a tech, and hopefully be an owner, it give different opportunities. It's just different. It's just
Absolutely.
different things and things like that. So hopefully that's what I wanted. I always want to. I speak proud. I speak boldly. I don't even when I talk in front of minority people who not of my color, not of my ilk. I talk as myself. I don't really try to be nobody else but myself. Cause I want people to know you can still be yourself. You don't have to. Like I said, I think how I succeed is very, very important. Cause that's the story. That's the story. People need to know. I don't want them to say, "Oh, you need to bow down, talk like this, do this, things like." No, I want to be able. It's a right way how people should succeed. So you have to look
Mhm.
yourself as a mirror, like, because you can. It's like it's all about the story, how I do it, and not about just doing it. Because I need to share the story. People need to know the story. I need to be able to say
Very
it with
true.
conviction. I got to be
Very
able to say
true.
it with conviction. If I can't say it with conviction, it's not going to hit it. So it's about I need to do this in a certain way so I can inspire a young group of generations. Say, hey, we can do it this way, and you can be yourself. Like I
There
don't
you
look like the
go.
typical people. Always like I think I'm 6'5". People think I'm a basketball player. Oh, you play basketball? I'm a nerd.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a nerd. I'm a whole nerd, but I don't look like it. I'm all like, but that's Black folks. We can jump into stuff, make stuff look cool. That's how we do it all the time.
Yeah.
I see a vision of that. More people in here, like we create the content, like we got content kings and things like that. Now I'm trying to let's push towards more ownership. Let's create these platforms that we create content for. Let's not just take the
Right. Right.
advertising dollars, the branding dollars. Let's create these platforms. We got the creativity. Creativity is not we don't lack that.
We need
the
the
knowledge,
structure.
the resources.
Yeah,
There
the
we go.
resources.
So it's just really just let's push towards that. So that's why I want to just really be an anchor towards that and just say, okay, cool. I'm not gonna be the guy in the suit or things like that. I will be able to relate to a large group of people, and it's like the fact that I have my both sides. I know what it like to be the failure, and I know like to be the success person. So I can
Yeah.
speak from both sides and things like that. So I get it. Underprivileged, talked about, picked on, all that. I get both sides. I can speak the language of both sides and things like that. Hopefully, I can
Love
be able to use
that.
that to my benefit when the platform do come out and when empathy does succeed. My whole thing, I say, empathy is way bigger than me. Screw me at all. Like it's about the bigger picture of not just normalizing moods, not just having be more human, but also it's generations behind us and things like that. Black people, all that good
Yes.
stuff. All, at the end of the day, representation is very, very important. That's why you go on empathy. Most part, you'll see a lot of like, even though it's diverse, but it's strategically we're a little bit more Black people and things like that. Just because I know how powerful that is and things like that, they need to see more themselves, all that good stuff. So, and also I just take pride in knowing that when empathy do blow, we will never be left off. We won't be second thought. I'm Black. Catherine's Black. We make sure it's going to remain Black and things like
Right.
that. We forgot about no. We good. We will be in a conversation. It will be done right. So it's a lot of that, making sure holding that mantle, making sure we done right. So hopefully, and throwing that ladder down so other people could come up as well. Other Black folks can come up and create their new platforms and things like that, and also encouraging more people in your field to come into tech because both of y'all need each other. They clearly are doing a good job. All that good. That's why this thing called good tech come out, because they realize, oh, this tech is messing us up. We need people more like you in your. Like, that's why the work that you're doing is very, very important. And I will even say, wherever down your journey you kind of dabble into tech, because they need you. They need you. They need you. That's why they call this thing called digital wellness. That's the thing. And it's only going to get bigger. All that good stuff, because they've seen the youth, how this tech is affecting the youth badly, adverse effects. So they want people. Okay, cool. How can we approach it? That's where Catherine become a great advisor. How to have human-centered design, human-centered algorithms, and things like that. How this can affect, and just having those decisions. Are we having? Is this diverse enough? Is this have inclusion? Is we doing this the right way? And you need people like a Catherine. You need people like a RJ in those rooms as well. You just don't need the coder who know this. No, you need these people. Make sure we're doing it the human way. We're not screwing up people, so we're not repeating the process over and over again. So I believe both of y'all. Both y'all, y'all important. Like I said, it's a marriage of both. Tech need the mental health field, and the mental health need tech. Y'all have to meet in the middle and just go from there. And that's when we start creating responsible tech that can benefit not just as financially, but also mentally and our wellness, all that good stuff. So that's what I want to say.
Man. No, thank you both so much, man. Like that last point you mentioned in there, like it really resonates with me, because I'm very much a big believer in thinking about the future, and it's not about me. Like the only reason why I even started to do this stuff was because I wanted to be able to have some type of legacy that might benefit somebody that I might never get the opportunity to talk to, because I recognize there's more out there, right? It's not just about how much wealth I can amass and how much I can personally take care of my family. That's all fine. Yeah. But what about all those other people out there that still need something? And so I really respect you for having that type of, both of you, for having that type of wisdom and experience, and really trying to look down the road on how I can approach these people, hopefully to give them not only like a safer platform or a more engaging platform that's better for them overall, but I also hope, like we were saying earlier, that it fosters that sense of community, like in the best ways. Again, nothing's foolproof. I live in mental health. I know better than anybody that nothing is foolproof and nothing is perfect. There's always going to be ups and downs and adjustments, right? But as long as we're making incremental progress, right, in that direction.
It's the growth journey. It's the growth journey. It's the growth journey. It's definitely the growth journey. That's why I respect you so much. You say you move out of purpose. I'm like, dude, I know what you're talking about. You speaking to me. Like, we speaking to each other. Like, once you start moving about purpose, it's not about you no more. You're just doing it just for the greater good. You just playing the seeds. I may not reap the benefits now, but when they do finally harvest, I did my job. I did my job. And based off some seeds that you planted, all that good. That's what I say about your podcast. Doing these now, okay, you have these archives of video. One of these, your old videos might affect people. Like, damn, this is my old content. You got to affect. Oh, I got way better, but nope, it was the old content that got me.
No. Listen, because I've heard. Hey. I've heard some things. I mean, and again, for me, I hope so, man. It's like, yo, I do this.
Yeah, man.
I'm not being compensated for this. I just do this because I really want to do something of value to other people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I know that I'll be okay. Like when you were talking about, I'll make this last point before we close. Like
Yeah.
I recognize that if you are really good at something and you're passionate about something, you don't necessarily always have to worry about how you're going to monetize it or make money. I think people can
Yeah.
genuinely see the authenticity and the transparency and the honesty in how you conduct yourself and how you go about it. So you'll find a way to make that work. But when you after you take that next step after you, then what comes next?
Mhm.
Well, it might be your immediate family, then it might be your extended family, then it might be your friends, and I hope at some point then we get to community and then society.
Yeah.
So so then what do I want to do to impact at that level, right? Where you were talking, Catherine, earlier on the macro level. I love talking about things on the macro level too. How am I going to get to that point? Well, maybe I can leverage my skill sets or utilize experiences that I have and lend them to somebody. Like you said, I hadn't even thought about it like that. Maybe I got to lend it to someone in the tech space to try to create a better, not just better platforms, but better ways for us to communicate and understand each
Yeah.
other and create empathy. That's why
Yeah.
I can easily support and encourage anybody. And that's why I was asking you earlier, for anybody that watches this or listens to this, when you guys are ready, I hope you guys let me know so that I can do whatever I can do to drive traffic there. And I will
Yeah.
certainly do my part to be a part of it, because I really like what you guys stand for. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be very necessary. And just like I was bringing up the meat versus vegetarian lifestyle, I think sometimes you need the alternative just to have that experience,
Yeah.
and then have something just to consider. You might find that it might be another great outlet for you, and maybe you are able to utilize traditional social media, we might say, as a tool that is meant to be, not as my worldview, not as my 100% my community, and let that continue to maybe misshape in the way that I see things. So I wish you guys
Yeah.
like nothing but success, and like I said, I hope once you get these things off the ground that you absolutely let me know, man, because I want to do everything I can to
I
support it.
I would say this as a closing. Whenever we hit our successful point, all that good stuff, and you're not too busy building your greatness, we would love you have you over at Empathy. We would love to have you over. We love people who have those mindsets of human centered first and things like that. Because, like I said, the more the better, all that good stuff. It's all about just shaping the tool and just bettering the tool. Because, like I said, it's not just the tech people who want to shape it better. It could be people like y'all who have the knowledge, who have the experience and things like that, knowing how to go about it and say, this is where I got off. I think you should go about this. So instead of just going off the numbers all the time. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. No, man. I appreciate you guys. This is very, very enlightening. I'm sure I'm gonna be digesting this for a while. I'm sure the audience
Mhm.
will be. So thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that
Yeah.
anybody who's either interested in tech or mental health, like you said, I want to make this last point, that the representation and the visibility to me were always something that was really important, even about getting on this camera and talking.
Mhm.
Because a lot of
Mhm.
times, to go back to my point about the men, like men don't see men do this.
Mhm.
And seeing you, Catherine, you've been very gracious in engaging with us, and I appreciate you for doing that, because we need the space, right, to be honest, to be able to talk about these things. And I love what we were able to achieve today in this type of discussion. And that's why I'm constantly trying to promote and record these types of things, because I want other brothers and sisters out there who don't see this. Maybe they don't have the male role model, the female role model, that parent around, what have you. But we know that content can help shape your perspective. Maybe this could do some benefit or be of support to somebody in a time of need. I hope that this is that for them. And I hope if there's some young man or woman out there who's like wants to code or wants to program something, like, I saw that guy Sire on that podcast and he seemed like he was really passionate about it. And he went into this going against the grain type of
Yeah.
mentality. Maybe I need to consider something like that too. And I will say I felt very similarly in my field. My field's very female dominated. And to be a man of color is even more so. I'm a very, very small percentage. Also in Florida, by the way, I heard you throw that out there, Zaire. Just watch.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that, but I'm out. I'm out here. But anyway,
Indeed.
but yeah, man. Thank you guys for being here. If anybody got value from listening or watching this, please consider liking and subscribing to this, because it helps me to continue to make a lot of this type of content, to seek out great people like Zaire and Catherine today. And I really appreciate anybody who was able to enjoy this and get something from it. So until I see you guys again next time, we're gonna sign off. So peace out.